Chapter 247. From the previous exchange, Su-Yi had been considering himself. If he were to go up, would he be able to contend against Hu-Chi? Su-Yi's final conclusion was that if he were to go up and face Hu-Chi's attack, he should be able to withstand it. Although Hu-Chi's martial skills were not simple, he also had the soaring 100 steps, 7 injuring fists, Overlord Fist, Mad Dragon's 3 blades, 8 Desolation Fury, and other extraordinary martial skills and trump cards. Brother Xiongzhan is invincible. Defeat the tribe of tiger hunters. The clamor interrupted Su-Yi's thoughts. Su-Yi raised his eyes and saw that Xiongzhan, who had been waiting at the side, had already stepped onto the stage. His body was as sturdy as a little bear. His muscles were bulging, his shoulder armor was exposed, and the golden breastplate on his chest was emitting mysterious runes. He looked like a legendary ancient war god. Everyone's gazes immediately shifted and landed on Xiongzhan. Xiongzhan did not care about the gazes around him as he walked onto the stage. A fierce aura suddenly surged out like an awakened beast. Xiongzhan, the number one of the younger generation of the wild bear tribe. No one in the younger generation dared to look down on him. Hurry up! Hurry up! W up D! Su-Yi looked at Xiongzhan and felt the aura on his body. That invisible aura was fierce and long, with a kind of domineering aura. With such talent and aura, if he was in the outside world, he would be able to become a giant in the future. There's always someone better than you. Su-Yi muttered in his heart. At this moment, seeing Xiongzhan, Shangguan Chinfeng, Hu-Chi, and the other extraordinary young people who were about the same age, he couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Putting everything aside, coming to this world, and being reborn as a human was not enough to let down this new life. Do you want to rest for a while? I can wait for you. Xiongzhan stepped onto the stage and looked at Hu-Chi. An invisible fierce and domineering aura was astonishing. No need. Hu-Chi looked at Xiongzhan, his eyes burning with fighting spirit. Among the younger generation, only Shangguan Chinfeng and Xiongzhan were able to make him feel fear and solemn. And just now, he had already defeated Shangguan Chinfeng. Now, as long as he defeated Xiongzhan, he would become a number 1 person in the younger generation. Actually, whether you rest or not, you will still lose. Warbear looked at Hu-Chi and smiled faintly. Looking at the field, the originally noisy crowd immediately quieted down. This was the most crucial battle. If Xiongzhan defeated Tiger Chi, then the wild bear tribe would win. If Tiger Chi won, then the tribe of tiger hunters would still have chance. The entire place was silent, but everyone's eyes were burning with anticipation. Looking at Xiongzhan, Hu-Chi took a deep breath. He did not dare to be careless. He had just defeated Shangguan Chinfeng, so he had consumed a lot of energy. A long stick appeared in his hand. A blazing aura filled the air and flames overflowed. Facing Xiongzhan, Hu-Chi did not dare to be careless. How about this? We will not use weapons. I have already seen your ancient fire stick clearly. If it is disadvantageous to you, we will fight with our physical bodies. Do you dare? Warbear looked at Hu-Chi and said. He had already seen through Hu-Chi's stick techniques. If he used weapons, he would be at an advantage. It was better to fight with their physical bodies. With a long stick in his hand, Hu-Chi's eyes flickered. Red yuan chi gushed out from his body and flowed along his arm, wrapping around the long stick in his hand. The long stick was overflowing with light. Warbear's words were filled with disdain, causing Hu-Chi's fighting spirit to burn. I know you have a strong physical body. If you want to fight with your physical body, then I will fulfill your wish. Immediately after, Hu-Chi nodded. He withdrew the long stick in his hand and pointed it at Warbear. He said, I can defeat you with my physical body. Feeling the aura from Hu-Chi's body, Warbear's eyes slowly glowed. His body gently twisted, and a crackling sound came from his muscular body. He stretched out a pair of hands that were different from ordinary people's. They were wide and heavy. Su-Yi looked at Warbear's hands from afar. They were different. This guy must have an extremely strong physical body. He must have cultivated some kind of physical body technique, similar to his own Origin Supreme Arts Origin Demon Body. Come, I will let you attack first. Otherwise, you will say that I am taking advantage of you while you are exhausted." Warbear looked at Hu Qi and smiled faintly. "Although, no matter what, you will lose. Strength speaks for itself. What's the use of arrogant words?" Hu Qi said coldly. Vigorous fire attribute Yuan Qi gushed out from his body like waves. His battle clothes fluttered and his hair danced. He suddenly took a step forward. The moment his body moved, strength rose from the ground and gathered at his waist. At this moment, he was like a fierce tiger pouncing on its prey. His strength and speed reached the extreme. Swish! Hu Qi instantly covered the short distance of a few dozen meters. He did not hold back his peak 6th level Yuan profound realm aura from the very beginning as he pushed it to its limits. Clenching his fist tightly, he directly punched toward Warbear as a blazing wave of air gushed out from his fist. Flaming Tiger Fist. With a low shout, Hu Qi's aura surged to the sky. The shadow of a tiger was faintly discernible in the wind in front of his fist. The tiger's shadow looked covetously, ready to pounce. A fierce tiger pouncing on its prey was mixed with a fierce and blazing aura. Flaming Tiger Fist, this is brother Hu Qi's trump card, a young man from the tribe of tiger hunters said in secret. His heart was beating faster. Flaming Tiger Fist was one of the most important martial skills of the tribe of tiger hunters. Ordinary people could not successfully cultivate it, but Hu Qi did it. Flaming Tiger Fist was also Hu Qi's ultimate move. Very smart. You want to end the battle quickly. Su Yi stared at Hu Qi. This guy's first attack was like this. It seemed like he was going all out. Su Yi knew that Su Yi's battle with Shangwan Chunfeng had consumed a lot of his energy. He wasn't suited for a long battle and wanted to end it quickly. Boom! Hu Qi's fist arrived in front of him in an instant. Hu Qi's fist carried a blazing aura that engulfed the entire area. The air was filled with the smell of flames. Warbear's expression did not change much in the face of such a powerful attack. He did not find it strange. Seeing the incoming punch, Warbear's pupils rapidly dilated. Warbear began to raise his palm, and a dark black Yuan Qi began to spread out. Boom! The fist was already less than 3 feet away from his eyes. At this moment, Xiongzhan also suddenly raised his right arm. His palm was already completely covered with dark black Yuan Qi. His right palm suddenly pushed out, and like lightning, it directly collided with the fist. Chapter 248. As the palms and fists collided, layers and layers of light swept out. Visible to the naked eye, the tiger-like light on Hu Qi's fist only paused for a brief moment before it was blasted away. Crackle! Waves of dark light rushed out from Xiongzhan's palms and dispersed the tiger-like shadow. At this moment, Hu Qi seemed to have sensed something as his expression changed drastically. At the same time, the experts and elders of the tribe of tiger hunters and the spirit ancient village were all shocked. Only the elders of the wild bear tribe, Xiong San, and the other experts were secretly smiling as they were confident. The experts and elders of the wild bear tribe were well aware of Xiongzhan's true strength. Xiongzhan's cultivation was at the 7th level of the Yuan profound realm, which was enough to sweep everything aside and crush his peers. This time, the wild bear tribe was bound to win. If it wasn't for the appearance of the barbaric void panther, the wild bear tribe would have won all 3 rounds. Peak of the 6th level of the Yuan profound realm. That's just the 6th level of the Yuan profound realm. Let's end this. Just as Hu Qi's expression changed drastically, Xiongzhan's overbearing words came out from his mouth. Boom! As Xiongzhan's palm struck, the dark light shone brightly. A violent and ferocious storm surged out and instantly exploded. PFFF. Hu Qi's face instantly turned pale as he staggered backward. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. After taking a few steps back, Hu Qi finally stabilized his body. He stomped on the ground with his final step, causing the ground beneath his feet to crack and shatter. Only then did he stabilize his body. But in the end, Hu Qi's body swayed, and he almost fell on his butt. Seeing Hu Qi spit out a mouthful of blood, the entire arena fell into a deathly silence. Almost everyone looked at each other in dismay and were dumbstruck. Hu Qi, who defeated Shangguan Qinfeng, was at the peak of the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm and the number one of the younger generation in the tribe of tiger hunters. But he was defeated in one move. Huff! Huff! After a short pause, the sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air could be heard in the entire arena, one after another. 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. Su Yi looked at Xiong Zhan in the middle of the field, his eyes also jumping. At this very moment, the aura rippling from Xiong Zhan's body had clearly reached the 7th level of the Yuan Profound stage, surpassing Hu Qi's peak 6th level Yuan Profound stage. Xiong Zhan is already at the 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm. Whether it was the tribe of tiger hunters, the elders of Spirit Ancient Village, or the experts, all of them were trembling at this moment. Xiong Zhan is only 19 years old, right? He's already at the 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm. In the past 200 years, there hasn't been such a talented individual. 10 years ago, that place belonged to the wild bear tribe. When Xiong Zhan was young, he was tempered there. He's even stronger than Tiger Qi. With such astonishing talent, the strongest in this generation of youths is War Bear. If Qinfeng could be sent in to temper himself at such a young age, he shouldn't be any weaker than them. A strong cultivator from the Spirit Ancient Village sighed regretfully. Shangguan Qinfeng had lost some opportunities before. Because of this, the Spirit Ancient Village wanted to win this time. They couldn't afford to lose again. Unfortunately, things didn't go as they wished. The Spirit Ancient Village still lost this time. 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm. The tribe of tiger hunters was dumbfounded. Many of them had disbelief in their eyes. The elders and experts were even more shocked. They didn't expect Xiong Zhan to be so powerful. He had never revealed his true cultivation strength. At such a crucial moment, Xiong Zhan soared to the sky and shocked everyone. We won. Brother Xiong Zhan is invincible. Brother Xiong Zhan is mighty. Enthusiastic cheers came from all directions within the wild bear tribe. They were boiling with excitement. Some of the elders even revealed smiles. Xiong Zhan's face was also filled with smiles. He lifted his eyes to look at Tiger Qi and said, "You've lost. The difference between the peak of the 6th level of the Origin Profound Realm and the 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm is too great. You can't surpass me." Blood trickled down the corner of Tiger Qi's mouth. His eyes were lifeless and his face was pale. He had always felt that Xiong Zhan was his strongest opponent. If Xiong Zhan was also at the peak of the 6th level of the Origin Profound Realm, Tiger Qi was confident that he could put up a fight even if he had to consume a lot of energy. But now, facing an opponent like Xiong Zhan who was at the 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm, Tiger Qi knew that he couldn't win. "That's right, I've lost. But if we were at the same level, you wouldn't be able to defeat me," Tiger Qi said as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Chapter D, Q Section QV. Gee, I don't think so. So what if you've reached the 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm? You're welcome to challenge me at any time, Xiong Zhan said indifferently. If they were at the same level of cultivation, he was absolutely confident that he would win. "I will." Tiger Qi said these 3 words before he turned around and left the stage. I never thought that Xiong Zhan would be so strong. This time, the wild bear tribe has won. Shangguan Shiwei's voice entered Su Yi's ears. Xiong Zhan is indeed strong. Su Yi nodded his head. He was sincerely praising Xiong Zhan. Such talent and strength was extraordinary. Su, a faint voice was heard as a tall and straight figure walked over. He had an outstanding charm and an angular face. Although his complexion was pale, his eyes were filled with sharpness. Su Yi raised his eyes and was a little astonished. It was Shangguan Qinfeng, who didn't speak much and was very cold. "I heard about the incident at the Demon Azure Mountain. Were you really the one who killed those 2 barbaric beasts?" Shangguan Qinfeng looked at Su Yi. After he came out of seclusion, he heard about the incident at the Demon Azure Mountain. The tribe of tiger hunters Tiger Cub and the wild bear tribe Xiong Lai brought their barbaric beasts to the Demon Azure Mountain. In the end, they were all killed by Su Yi. The cultivation of the earth aura barbaric bear and the rock-splitting demonic tiger were very powerful. That's right. He nodded his head. He had a good impression of Shangguan Qinfeng, who didn't speak much and had a cold temperament. Especially after Shangguan Qinfeng's defeat. He could feel that the one who felt the most regret was Shangguan Qinfeng himself. However, he didn't show it. He suppressed it in his heart and endured it alone. The Spirit Ancient Village has already received a lot of kindness from you. However, I would like to ask you for one more thing. If you can agree to it, I, Shangguan Qinfeng, am willing to be a cow or a horse for the rest of my life. Shangguan Qinfeng looked at Su Yi and gritted his teeth as he said those words. His eyes were filled with a hint of pleading, but his temperament was still arrogant. Shangguan Shiwei, Shangguan Rock, and the other youngsters were surprised when they heard Shangguan Qinfeng's words. Not far away, the experts and elders of the Spirit Ancient Village also noticed it and cast their gazes over. That's too serious. If I can do it, I will do my best. He nodded his head. For such a man to say such words, there must be something important. Chapter 249. But Xiongzhan has already won. According to the rules, the Wild Bear Tribe has already won. He was astonished. If they wanted to challenge Xiongzhan, there shouldn't be a problem. But according to the rules, the Wild Bear Tribe had already won. That's right, Brother Qinfeng. The Wild Bear Tribe has already won. Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yu, Shangguan Xiao, and the rest of the youngsters were also puzzled. It seemed like they couldn't change anything. No, there is indeed such a rule. It's just that not many people know about it. Suddenly, Shangguan Shiwei seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes surged with radiance like stars that rose in the darkness, sparkling. According to the rules, Xiongzhan might have won, but if there is still a challenge, then it's not over yet. Shangguan Qinfeng said to Shangguan Rock and the rest. He then looked at Su Yi and continued. Xiongzhan has already won. According to the rules, this challenge is very dangerous. Only by challenging Xiongzhan and the fierce red wild bear that he subdued at the same time and defeating them would the challenge be effective. According to the ancestral rules, if someone from the same generation isn't convinced, they can issue a challenge. But this challenge has to be against the winner and the savage beast that he subdued at the same time. Shangguan Shiwei's eyes were filled with excitement. She actually forgot about this rule. Originally, the Spirit Ancient Village had already lost, so the existence of this rule was meaningless. The strongest had already lost. Who else would be able to challenge the final victor and his mount? This was an absolutely impossible matter. Therefore, this ancestral rule had never been used before. But the situation was different now. Shangguan Shiwei clearly knew that with this young man in front of her, the Spirit Ancient Village might still have a chance. Challenging the fierce red wild bear and Xiongzhan at the same time. Su Yi's eyes moved. He wasn't worried about Xiongzhan and the fierce red wild bear, but he was astonished that there was such a rule. If anyone could defeat the winner and the savage beast that he subdued at the same time, they would be the final winner. Why would there be a need for a challenge? I know that this request is a little difficult, but Xiongzhan has already reached the 7th level of the Origin Profound Realm. With the addition of the Scarlet Raging Bear, I'm afraid that he won't be easy to deal with. If he loses, he might be seriously injured. Shangguan Qinfeng looked at Su Yi with an awkward expression. He believed that he would only be able to take on War Bear in one move. Moreover, there was also the Scarlet Wild Bear that was already at the 7th level of the Demon Profound Realm. Such a Scarlet Wild Bear was even stronger than a 7th level Yuan Profound Realm martial artist. Originally, Shangguan Qinfeng wouldn't have thought of this. However, after hearing about what Su Yi had done in the Demon Azure Mountain, he decided to take a gamble. Looking at Su Yi, Shangguan Qinfeng paused for a moment. Looking at Su Yi, he continued, Su, as long as you win the challenge, I, Shangguan Qinfeng, am willing to be your slave in the future. Brother Su, if you are confident, then make your move. Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yu, Shangguan Yi, and the rest had pleading looks in their eyes. They hoped that Su Yi would make his move and fight the final battle for the Spirit Ancient Village. This was the last chance for the Spirit Ancient Village. Sui looked at Shangwan Chinfeng, Shangwan Shiwei, Shangwan Rock, and the rest. His gaze swept across them and finally landed on Shangwan Chinfeng. He smiled and said, "Do you have a piece of origin stone? Or ordinary elixirs?" Hearing this, Shangwan Shiwei, Shangwan Rock, and the rest were astonished. They curiously looked at Sui. They didn't know why Sui wanted origin stones and elixirs at this moment. Shangwan Chinfeng was also astonished. However, he immediately took out a few pieces of origin stones. They were all one-star origin stones and said, "Elixirs are very rare here. In the entire Spirit Ancient Village, there are only 2 alchemists. As for origin stones, I have a few on me." "Brother Isu, why do you need origin stones and elixirs?" "I have some on me too. I have some on me too." Instantly, Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Yu, Shangwan Xiao, and the rest of the young men and women took out their treasures. There were origin stones and some low-grade elixirs. "1 piece is enough." Sui smiled and took a piece of origin stone from Shangwan Chinfeng's hand. He tossed it in his palm. "All right, Tiger Chi has lost. Xiongzhan is victorious. The final winner of this battle is the Wild Bear Tribe." The words of the old man from the Wild Bear Tribe spread out. His voice wasn't loud, but it resounded throughout the entire place. "Roar!" The fierce red wild bear roared. Its huge body was already towering in the middle of the field. Its roar was deafening. Xiongzhan's feet touched the ground, and his origin chi swept out. His muscular body was as light as a swallow. He directly jumped onto the shoulder of the fierce red wild bear. His armor glowed as he raised his hand. We won, we won. Brother Xiongzhan, good job." The young men from the Wild Bear Tribe were wild with joy as they cheered. Such a young man was the #1 in the younger generation of the Wild Bear Tribe. Today's battle was enough to prove everything. "Brother Isu, what do you want origin stones for?" Shangwan Rock was puzzled by the deafening cheers of the Wild Bear Tribe. His face was filled with confusion as he asked curiously. Shangwan Shiwei's charming face was also filled with confusion. Sui smiled faintly at Shangwan Rock. Then he looked at Shangwan Chinfeng and said, "I don't do unprofitable business. 1 origin stone, and I'll help you defeat Xiongzhan and the fierce red wild bear. If I lose, I'll pay you back 10,000 times." As his voice faded, Sui tossed the origin stone in his hand. He whistled and turned around to walk into the field. Everyone looked at each other. Brother Isu agreed. Immediately, Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Yi, and the others were wild with joy. Brother Isu agreed. Shangwan Chinfeng's eyes moved as he looked at the back of the person who walked onto the field. His long black hair fluttered in the wind as he crossed his sword behind his back. His eyes flickered with light. And what is Isu doing? Seeing Sui walk onto the field, the experts and elders of the Spirit Ancient Village were puzzled. Xiongzhan, who was cheering on the shoulder of the fierce red wild bear, also noticed Sui walking onto the field. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Xiongzhan had seen Sui before and had a deep impression of him. His brother Xiong Lai was heavily injured by that young man. Xiongzhan slowly lowered his hand as he stared at Sui, who was walking towards him. Following Xiongzhan's gaze, everyone in the field seemed to have noticed something as they looked at Sui. That young man from the outside, what is he doing on the field? Is he that young man from the outside? I heard that his name is Isu. He's very strong and defeated Xiong Lai before. I heard that the 2 brothers, Hu Mo and Hu Yu, were both defeated by him before. Immediately, discussions broke out within the Hunting Tiger Tribe and the Barbarian Bear Tribe. Their gazes curiously looked towards Sui, who had walked onto the stage. Chapter 250. Looks like you're doing well in the Spirit Ancient Village. Are you here to look for me? Xiongzhan was the first to speak as he looked at Sui, who was walking towards him at a leisurely pace. There was some doubt in his eyes. This outsider youth gave him an invisible feeling that he could not see through. He felt that this youth seemed to have come to find him. Indeed, I'm doing well. I'm here to look for you. Sui stopped a couple of feet away from Xiongzhan's mount, the fierce red wild bear. In the face of the towering, fierce red wild bear, His body immediately appeared somewhat small and weak. However, his perfectly straight body and his relaxed expression gave off an unshakable feeling like a mountain range. Such a temperament made the elders and experts present feel moved. This outsider youth is here for Xiongzhan. Could it be that he wants to challenge Xiongzhan? Hearing the conversation between Su Yi and Xiongzhan, everyone was puzzled. I was looking for an opportunity to look for you. I didn't expect you to come knocking on my door. Xiongzhan looked down at Su Yi and didn't seem too surprised. He also wanted to find an opportunity to look for this outsider youth. He had to take revenge for his brother, Xiongli. He looked at Su Yi and continued, "How about this? As long as you can take one of my moves, we'll call it quits. But if you can't, then you'll have to bear the consequences." Su Yi smiled faintly and ignored Xiongzhan. Instead, he suddenly turned around and looked at the wild bear tribe, the tribe of tiger hunters, and the elders and experts of the spirit ancient village. Bowing slightly, Su Yi asked, "May I ask if there's a rule? If someone can defeat the winner and his tamed savage beast mount, he will be the final winner?" What's going on? When Su Yi's words were heard, the entire motherport was stunned. Many people did not understand what he meant. However, the gazes of the elders and experts darkened one after another. This was especially so for the experts and elders of the barbarian bear tribe. They looked at each other in dismay. Could it be? The elders and experts of the spirit ancient village were also astonished. No wonder Shangguan Chenfeng, Shangguan Shiwei, and the others had gathered together to discuss something. Could it be because of this matter? Is Su going to challenge Xiongzhan? Some of the spirit ancient village's experts, such as Shangguan Qingming, were stunned. Then they saw hope. They knew Su Yi's approximate strength, and this was indeed their last chance. According to the rules, the person who is able to defeat the winner and his mount will be the final victor. This is an ancestral rule. No one seems to have used it before. The people in the surroundings began to whisper to each other. Some people opened their mouths, dispelling the doubts of the surrounding spectators, telling them that there was this type of ancestral rule. However, in all these years, no one in the spirit ancient village, the tribe of tiger hunters, or the wild bear tribe had ever used it. So many people did not know about it. There is such an ancestral rule. Is Su going to challenge Xiongzhan? Some people understood and were surprised. Could it be that this young outsider, who looked young, had the strength to challenge Xiongzhan and the fierce red wild bear at the same time? "Young man, you want to challenge?" The elder of the wild bear tribe, who had been announcing the rules, asked. After a moment of doubt, his expression returned to normal. "That's right." Su Yi nodded. "Do you want to represent the tribe of tiger hunters or the spirit ancient village?" Even though the old man from the barbarian bear tribe already knew that this young man had been in the spirit ancient village all this while, and that he probably wanted to challenge the spirit ancient village, he still looked at Su Yi and asked, "The spirit ancient village?" Su Yi said, "Su wants to challenge for our spirit ancient village. We still have one last chance." Hearing this, the people of the spirit ancient village were excited. Their eyes, which had lost all hope, suddenly shone again. "We forgot about Su. With his strength, we still have a chance." The experts and elders of the spirit ancient village couldn't help but feel excited. They all knew about Su Yi's achievements in the Demon Luo Mountain. Therefore, although Xiongzhan and the fierce red wild bear were very strong, if Su Yi wanted to challenge them, he still had a chance. The elders and experts of the wild bear tribe looked at each other and whispered to each other. They seemed to be whispering something. "There is indeed such a rule, but you are just an outsider. You can't represent the spirit ancient village to challenge." Then, an elder of the wild bear tribe stood up. He looked very old, with a head full of white hair and a face full of vicissitudes. He gave off an invisible pressure as he looked at Su Yi and said, "He is an expert, very strong." Even from a distance, Su Yi could feel a huge pressure from the white-haired elder's gaze. His heart trembled, but he was able to suppress this pressure in his heart. Su Yi looked at Shangguan Chenfeng, Shangguan Shiwei, and the others in the spirit ancient village. Since an outsider couldn't represent the spirit ancient village, he didn't know what to do. Carrot? New equals hashtag most, soon. Carrot Q1U. Is there no one else in the Spirit Ancient Village? You actually want an outsider to challenge you. Xiong San said, looking at the group of experts in the Spirit Ancient Village. He didn't hide the ridicule in his eyes. This, Shangguan Shuwei, Shangguan Chinfeng, Shangguan Rock, and the others looked at each other and looked at the elders in the Spirit Ancient Village. Shangguan Shuwei and Shangguan Chinfeng only knew a little about the ancestral rule. They didn't know that an outsider couldn't represent the Spirit Ancient Village. At this moment, the elders of the Spirit Ancient Village were slightly embarrassed. Indeed, an outsider couldn't represent the Spirit Ancient Village to challenge the Spirit Ancient Village. Who said that Yi Su is an outsider? He's now a member of the Spirit Ancient Village. At this moment, a leisurely voice rang out. Above the void, a light flashed. As the last word was spoken, a figure quietly appeared in the square. It was an old lady in her 60s. She had a slightly hunched back, and her hair was black with a mix of silver. There were no wrinkles on her face, and her face was rosy. Her eyes were calm. However, when this old lady appeared, the air around the square seemed to tremble for no reason. Village Chief Granny is here. When they saw the old lady, someone in the Spirit Ancient Village shouted excitedly. The person who came was none other than the village chief, Shangguan Qingya. Old Village Chief. At the same time, the elders and experts of the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe were also surprised. They stood up and greeted her. Granny Shangguan. So he was also surprised. He didn't expect the village chief to come. Shangguan Qingya smiled at Su Yi with a kind face. Chapter 251. Among the tribe of tiger hunters, there was an old man with a dignified face and a dignified temperament. He seemed to have an extremely high status. Although he did not wish for the wild bear tribe to win, he could not allow an outsider to challenge on behalf of the Spirit Ancient Village. This was not in accordance with the ancestral rules. That's right. An outsider cannot challenge on behalf of the Spirit Ancient Village, nor is he qualified to stay here for long. The old man from the wild bear tribe also spoke. He was the great elder of the wild bear tribe and had a very high status. In terms of age, he was much older than Shangguan Qingya. Shangguan Qingya's gaze was calm as she looked at the two old men from the wild bear tribe and the tribe of tiger hunters. She said calmly, I said that Yi Su is no longer an outsider. Not an outsider. When the crowd heard this, they were secretly surprised. Immediately, there were many whispers. Even the people from the Spirit Ancient Village were puzzled at this moment. They did not know what the village chief meant. Yi Su has already acknowledged me as his grandmother. That means he is my grandson. Therefore, he is naturally not an outsider. Shangguan Qingya said, Grandson. The crowd was stunned and immediately became restless. Yi Su is indeed a member of our Spirit Ancient Village. The people from the Spirit Ancient Village were stunned. Then, someone laughed and was extremely happy. He was slightly surprised. He was originally puzzled, but then the corner of his mouth lifted into a smile. In his heart, he had already regarded himself as a member of the Spirit Ancient Village. Qingya, this is a little far-fetched. This is indeed against the rules. The dignified old man from the tribe of tiger hunters and the great elder of the wild bear tribe looked at Shangguan Qingya. Although they seemed to be afraid of Shangguan Qingya, this was indeed against the rules. How is it against the rules? Do I, Shangguan Qingya, need you to acknowledge my grandson? Shangguan Qingya's calm gaze suddenly changed. She looked at the dignified old man and the great elder of the wild bear tribe and said with an unrelenting look, Come on, you guys tell me. How is my grandson not a member of the Spirit Ancient Village? If you don't explain it clearly today, I won't let you off. Don't think that the Spirit Ancient Village is easy to bully just because an old woman like me is the village chief. Seeing Shangguan Qingya suddenly flip out, the dignified old man and the first elder of the wild bear tribe looked at each other helplessly and smiled bitterly. It was a joke that Shangguan Qingya was easy to bully. Everyone knew that Shangguan Qingya was difficult to deal with, but she was also very powerful. Ever since she became the village chief of the Spirit Ancient Village, the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe had suffered a lot. especially 30 years ago, for some elders of the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe. It was still vivid in their minds. 30 years ago, the younger generation of the spirit ancient village, the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe, had a dispute. In the end, it alarmed the elders. Shangguan Qingya had just become the village chief of the spirit ancient village, but she insisted that the spirit ancient village was in the right. Naturally, the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe were not convinced, and their chiefs came out to speak. However, before the two chiefs could say a few words, Shangguan Qingya beat them up in front of everyone. 1 against 2. In front of everyone. Finally, wherever Shangguan Qingya was there, the two leaders would never show up. Say something, all of you. Come, tell me. How is it that I, Shangguan Qingya, have a grandson who is not from the spirit ancient village? Are you saying that I, Shangguan Qingya, am not from the spirit ancient village? If you can't explain yourself today, I will definitely not be polite to you. Original version 7 #B. Shangguan Qingya stared at the dignified elder of the hunting tiger tribe and the first elder of the barbarian bear tribe. She looked as if she was going to condemn them and would not give up. Her aura fluctuated slightly, causing the atmosphere in the entire square to become tense. Grandma Shangguan, this is Su. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. He didn't expect that the kind and gentle Granny Shangguan had such a side to her. Judging from the reactions of the elders of the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe, they seemed to be very afraid of Grandma Shangguan. Shangguan Shiwei, Shangguan Qinfeng, and the rest of the younger generation of the spirit ancient village were absolutely dumbfounded at this moment. They had never seen Grandma Village Chief have such a side to her. Qingya, this is indeed a little against the rules. The dignified elder of the tribe of tiger hunters was helpless. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He felt like a scholar who couldn't reason with a soldier. It's okay for you to have a grandson, but to challenge on behalf of the spirit ancient village, this is unprecedented. The first elder of the wild bear tribe was very depressed, but he was still a little afraid. Shangguan Qingya's fiery temper seemed to have not changed after so many years. Most importantly, he knew that Shangguan Qingya's strength was definitely not to be trifled with. All right, I won't make things difficult for you. This is indeed unprecedented, but the ancestral rules didn't say that it's impossible. Seeing the reaction of the two elders, Shangguan Qingya's aura calmed down a little. She said, "How about this? Isu is now considered a member of the spirit ancient village, so he naturally has the qualifications to challenge. However, there is no precedent, so the spirit ancient village will also take out some things. If Isu fails, then within 100 years, the spirit ancient village will not participate in the competition that is held once every 10 years. However, if Isu wins, then everything will be normal. Not participating for 100 years." Hearing Shangguan Qingya's words, everyone was moved. Of course, the ones who had the biggest reaction were the elders of the spirit ancient village, the tribe of tiger hunters, and the wild bear tribe. They knew best what it meant for the spirit ancient village to not participate in the competition for 100 years. If they didn't participate in the competition for 100 years, it meant that the spirit ancient village will be further away from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe. If the spirit ancient village didn't participate in the competition for 100 years, it meant that for the next 100 years, the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe would have one less huge opponent. Every 10 years, the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe would only need to deal with one opponent. Their chances of winning would greatly increase. Grandma Shangguan, Su, he was also shocked. If he lost, the spirit ancient village wouldn't participate in the competition for 100 years. The price was too great. It was a gamble for the future of the entire spirit ancient village. No need to say more. Grandma believes in you. Shangguan Qingya's eyes trembled. She looked at Su Yi and smiled. Her eyes regained their kindness. But Su Yi wasn't afraid that he wouldn't be able to defeat Xiong Zhan and the fierce red wild bear, but the stakes were too great. It also represented a responsibility. The future of the entire spirit ancient village undoubtedly fell on his shoulders. Could it be that you are afraid? Afraid that you won't be able to defeat Xiong Zhan? If you are afraid of this, then how can you become an expert in the future? Chapter 252. Looking at Shangguan Qingya, Su Yi's pupils contracted slightly. She was only at the 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. What was there to be afraid of? Su Yi was already at the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm, so he wasn't afraid at all. He was just worried that the responsibility would be too great. Although Xiongzhan was slightly older, they were still of the same generation. If he couldn't even defeat someone of the same generation, how could he possibly step onto a colossus like the Sacred Mountain in the future? What is there to be afraid of? Su Yi replied and nodded. His eyes were surging with battle intent. Since he started cultivating, Xiongzhan was the strongest person of the same generation that he had ever met. Good, that's more like it. Shangguan Qingya smiled and turned to look at the dignified elder of the tribe of tiger hunters and the grand elder of the wild bear tribe. She said, I believe that the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe should have no problems now. Of course, Isu is also considered a member of the Spirit Ancient Village. So be it. However, if Isu is defeated, the Spirit Ancient Village will not be able to participate in the decennial competition for 100 years. The dignified elder of the tribe of tiger hunters and the other elders nodded in agreement after a discussion. It was obvious that the elders of the tribe of tiger hunters were afraid of Shangguan Qingya. In addition, the Spirit Ancient Village not participating in the competition for 100 years was beneficial to the tribe of tiger hunters. Even if the Spirit Ancient Village won, the tribe of tiger hunters wouldn't suffer any losses. Xiongzhan, what do you think? The Grand Elder of the Wild Bear Tribe lifted his eyes and looked at Xiongzhan. To be safe, he had to ask for Xiongzhan's opinion. In terms of strength, he doesn't have the qualifications to challenge me. However, I am willing to give him this opportunity. Xiongzhan had been ignored by the side, and his expression was rather ugly. That kid didn't seem to care much about him when he went up. However, Xiongzhan could sense that Isu's aura was inferior to his own. Originally, he wanted to find an opportunity to avenge his younger brother, Xiongli. At this moment, Xiongzhan naturally would not let go of such an opportunity. Warbear stared at Su Yi, pausing between each word. His expression was cold as he continued. There is no need for my mount to do anything. I alone am enough. They're going to fight. Isu versus Xiongzhan. Do you know who will win? That Isu doesn't look that big. Does he really have the strength to contend against Xiongzhan and his mount? The Spirit Ancient Village's bet this time is not small. Some of the experts from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe began to discuss in low voices. The stakes were not small. No one doubted Warbear's words, and no one felt that Warbear was arrogant. With Xiongzhan's talent, it had already been a very long time since such a genius appeared. All right, it's a deal. The Spirit Ancient Village needs to defeat Xiongzhan and his mount at the same time. The great elder of the wild bear tribe looked at Shangguan Qingya and nodded with gritted teeth. He knew that if he did not agree today, he would have no choice. He also believed in Warbear's strength. That foreign brat seemed to be somewhat mysterious. However, no one in the wild bear tribe would believe that he had the strength to defeat the fierce red wild bear. Furthermore, he had to defeat both the fierce red wild bear and Warbear at the same time. This was absolutely impossible. Of course, this old one always keeps her word. Shangguan Qingya nodded. A smile appeared on her rosy face. She looked at Su Yi and said, Go, just do your best. As her voice fell, Shangguan Qingya stepped forward. Although her steps were light and slow, in a flash, her slightly hunched body had already arrived in the midst of the Spirit Ancient Village's lineup. What a fast speed! It seems to be similar to the shrinking ground into an inch. Su Yi's eyes moved. The village chief's speed made Su Yi feel something. It seemed to be similar to the shrinking ground into an inch of the Fuyao's 100 transformation steps. However, when the village chief, Shangguan Qingya, executed it, it was also this terrifying. Warbear, fight according to the rules. As Shangguan Qingya stepped forward, the great elder of the wild bear tribe also spoke. The great elder's words contained a deeper meaning. He was reminding Warbear not to be careless. According to the rules, he had to join forces with the fierce red wild bear. Yes, great elder. On the back of the fierce red wild bear, War Bear bowed and nodded. After discussion, we have finally decided that Isu is qualified to challenge. The rules are as usual. Isu must challenge both War Bear and his mount, the fierce red wild bear. The final victor will also be the winner of this competition. Do you all understand? +9. The elder of the wild bear tribe, who had been presiding over the competition, spoke again. His voice was calm, but it resounded throughout the square. His gaze was intentionally or unintentionally sizing up Su-E from afar. Understood. Su-E and War Bear nodded at the same time. Then I now announce that you can start your challenge. The elder's words were a little heavier, and his voice resounded throughout the square. Boom! As the elder announced the start of the challenge, the atmosphere in the square trembled for no reason. Swish, swish. Suddenly, the gazes of the entire square fell onto Su-E and Xiongzhan. This is the first challenge. Some people's eyes were filled with anticipation and nervousness, especially the people of Spirit Ancient Village. All of them held their breaths as they waited. Not to mention Shangwan Rock and the other young people, even some middle-aged people were nervously clenching their fists. One had to know that this battle was related to the future of Spirit Ancient Village. This was a huge gamble. That kid actually wants to challenge War Bear and the fierce red wild bear at the same time. He's looking for a beating. He's overestimating himself. However, many people of the wild bear tribe did not care. They looked at Su-E from afar, and some mocked and disdained him. Ignoring the surrounding gazes, Su-E, War Bear, and the fierce red wild bear looked at each other from afar. At this moment, the battle intent was brewing in the chests of the two young people, boiling and boiling. Roar! The fierce red wild bear looked down at Su-E from above. Its eyes were as big as bells, and a fierce light shone from it. With a roar, the air around Su-E shook the surrounding air, and the air rushed towards Su-E, causing the dust around the square to fly up and his robes to flutter. However, Su-E did not move and did not even blink his eyes. Kid, I have to say that you're very courageous. However, sometimes courage is useless. War Bear looked at Su-E, and the armor on his body glowed. There was a dark black earth attribute energy moving around, and it was filled with a fierce aura. It seemed to be related to the cultivation method that he cultivated, and it was somewhat domineering and fierce. Su-E's expression did not change much in response to Xiongzhan's words. He merely looked indifferently at Xiongzhan, who was on the scarlet wild bear's shoulder, and said, "Let's attack together. I hope that you are stronger than your younger brother. Otherwise, I will be somewhat disappointed." Isu, this kid is really. Hearing Isu's words, some of the elders of Spirit Ancient Village looked at each other. This kid is really arrogant. Is he really not afraid of War Bear? Chapter 253. Kid, you're really courageous. Xiongzhan's face darkened when he heard Su-Yi's words. He even dared to mention his brother. His aura surged, and dark yuan qi radiated from Xiongzhan's body. Immediately, the originally hostile atmosphere suddenly became tense. There's no need for us to team up. My mount is enough to trample you. As Xiongzhan finished his words, he stepped on the fierce red wild bear's shoulder and pointed his finger at Su-E. His eyes were filled with disdain and arrogance. Roar! The raging red bear's roar was like thunder. The raging red bear let out a roar and directly attacked. The red light on its body was like a wave. Its aura was scorching and violent. It lifted its gigantic foot and directly stomped towards Su-E. The foot was domineering and unreasonable. It was looking down on Su-E. The fierce red wild bear listened to Xiongzhan's words and wanted to trample Su-E under its foot. It wanted to defeat its opponent in such a humiliating way. The fierce red wild bear attacked, and the aura of LV7 demon, profound realm, swept out without holding back. It brought along a gust of wind, and the stone slabs on the ground began to shake. Boom! The huge bear's paw stomped down and instantly fell on Su-Yi's head. The bear's paw carried a bright scarlet light. It seemed like there was a fire roaring, and it wanted to crush the ground under its foot. It was extremely powerful and terrifying. Such a kick made Su Yi angry. His eyes darkened and yuan qi gushed out from his body. Su Yi's black hair fluttered behind him. He shook his arm and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. Suddenly, he threw a punch toward the sky. Instead of retreating, Su Yi moved forward and threw a punch towards the fierce red wild bear's foot. Whoosh! Seeing Su Yi's action, the crowd went into an uproar. They were surprised to see that Su Yi was going to fight an LV7 demon, profound realm fierce red wild bear. So people held their breaths and waited. Some people were on tenterhooks. Many people couldn't help but gasp for Su Yi. They were worried that Su Yi would be trampled into meat paste. In comparison, Su Yi's entire person seemed even smaller than the fierce crimson wild bear's kick. Compared to the foot, the fist was almost negligible. Some people even closed their eyes and didn't dare to look directly at Su Yi. They were afraid to see Su Yi being trampled into a bloody pulp. Boom! A fist and a kick collided with each other, but a muffled, thunder-like sound was immediately heard, and a shockwave swept out in all directions. Yeah, some people were surprised. The scene of Su Yi being trampled on didn't happen as they had expected. One could see with the naked eye that the skinny yet tall figure on the plaza had single-handedly lifted up the giant leg of the fierce red wild bear, while a faint scarlet-red glow spread from the yuan qi light barrier around his body. Although the ground below his feet cracked, it was able to lift up the fierce red wild bear's leg, causing it to be unable to press down any further. Such a scene made people exclaim in admiration. Many people found it hard to believe. Impudent beast! Amidst the stunned crowd, Su Yi's eyes also surged with a special kind of fighting spirit. His eyes were stern, and the black yuan qi on his fist surged. As he clenched his fist and pushed it forward, another powerful force directly exploded out. Bang! The energy was like thunder. The fierce eyes of the fierce red wild bear trembled. Its huge foot was lifted, and its huge body staggered. Before it could even turn around, it was sent flying. Xiongzhan, who originally believed that this foot was enough to trample his opponent, had a drastic change in expression at this moment. Yuan power rushed out from his foot, and he hurriedly flew down from the fierce red wild bear's shoulder. Stomp, stomp. In order to avoid the falling fierce red wild bear, Xiongzhan's foot rubbed against the ground as he staggered backwards. His expression changed. Ayo! Bang! With a miserable roar, the huge body of the fierce red wild bear was sent flying and heavily smashed into the ground. Crack, crack. The place where the fierce red wild bear landed cracked, and blood spurted out from its hideous mouth. The sole of the foot that was about to step on Su Yi seemed to have been blasted open. Blood flowed out from the cracks. The crowd was in an uproar. They were all shocked. In the spirit ancient village tribe of tiger hunters and wild bear tribe, there were even some elders and experts who suddenly stood up. Looking at the fallen fierce red wild bear, all the spectators looked at each other. Even Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Shiwei, and the others, who already knew of Su Yi's strength, couldn't help but shiver. This was a 7th-level demon, profound realm, fierce red wild bear. An ordinary peak 7th-level yuan profound realm martial artist wouldn't be able to do anything to it. But now, in just one move, the fierce red wild bear was sent flying and severely injured. Xiongzhan, who was originally disdainful and arrogant, was overwhelmed with shock at this moment. He was on the back of the fierce red wild bear and could feel the terrifying power contained in the former's punch. It was just too powerful. It was like layers of shock waves that were endless. That punch was very strange. There were several different forces within it. Some were hard, some were soft, some were soft, some were soft, some were soft, some were horizontal, some were straight, and some were retracted. The fierce red wild bear couldn't withstand the sudden force and was instantly sent flying and severely injured. It's your turn. After sending the fierce red wild bear flying with a punch, Su Yi didn't stop for long. The fierce red wild bear being sent flying was also within Su Yi's expectations. Although the fierce red wild bear was strong, it wasn't a match for a peak 9th-level demon profound realm demonic rock tiger. Although Su Yi didn't use his trump card, The full power of the 7 injuring fist was enough to defeat it. Chi. As soon as he finished speaking, he stomped his foot on the ground, and his figure suddenly rushed towards Xiongzhan. Boom! Seeing Su Yi's figure rushing towards him, Xiongzhan recovered from the shock. The aura on his body instantly rose to the peak, and the original earth attribute Yuan Qi immediately turned into fire attribute Yuan Qi. Savage scripture, ancient crimson seal. A low shout was emitted from Xiongzhan's mouth. As fire attribute Yuan Qi gushed out, a blazing aura suddenly spun out from his palm. It carried a wave-like whistling sound as it finally gathered together. It was as if countless raging flames had gathered together to form a small sea of fire. The seal was shining brightly, and its aura was scorching and terrifying. It burned the air, and an ancient pressure swept out. Ancient Crimson Seal. That's Xiongzhan's trump card. This ancient Crimson Seal is the ultimate move of the Savage Scripture. Xiongzhan has yet to successfully cultivate it. Among the younger generation of the Wild Bear tribe, only Xiongzhan has successfully cultivated it. Rumor has it that it's impossible to successfully cultivate this ancient Crimson Seal before reaching the Origin Spirit Realm. I didn't expect Xiongzhan to be able to cultivate it. His talent is amazing. When the seal condensed in Xiongzhan's hand, all the experts and elders present were moved. This was the ultimate move of the Wild Bear tribe's Savage Scripture. It was extremely powerful, and they didn't expect Xiongzhan to be able to successfully cultivate it. Outside the arena, Shangwan Chinfeng and Hu Qi's eyes were also trembling. This was Xiongzhan's true strength, and they knew that they wouldn't be able to contend against him. Version Y. Chapter 254. Xiongzhan's punch was so powerful that it made Su Yi look up. The powerful aura caused Su Yi's battle intent to burn even brighter. Looking at the former's fist that seemed to carry a small sea of fire, Su Yi's eyes instantly emitted a scarlet red glow. Yuan Qi shuttled through his meridians and abruptly gathered on his right fist. Rumble! All of a sudden, Su Yi shook his arm. His right fist glowed brightly, as if it was expanding. A clear sound of wind and thunder could be heard as it rumbled like thunder. At that moment, Su Yi's body released a powerful aura, as if an overlord had awakened and an emperor had descended. Oh! In the valley, the wild beasts around the square seemed to have sensed something. They roared and trembled. Such a terrifying aura spread across the square. The first to feel the aura were the elders and experts from the tribe of tiger hunters, the Wild Bear tribe, and the Spirit Ancient village who were sitting in the square. The expressions of these elders and experts immediately changed. Almost at the same time, their gazes fell on Su Yi and stared at Su Yi. The elders and experts could feel the source of the terrifying aura. It was from the outsider, Su. They could sense that the foreign use aura was not much stronger than Xiongzhan's aura. However, the invisible might was many times stronger than Xiongzhan's. It was like a wolf cub and a tiger cub. Putting aside the difference in their combat strength, the tiger cub's aura was naturally much stronger. It naturally had the aura of a beast king. This martial skill is not simple. The elders and experts looked at each other. Their throats were boiling. They could feel that the aura from the outsider was too strong. Q first $. This martial skill is at least at the royal grade, right? A strong cultivator exclaimed. Judging from Su's current chi, it was likely that he had used a martial skill that was above the royal level. That young man's movement skill is incredible. I'm afraid that it's at the royal grade. That martial skill has definitely surpassed the royal grade. Some experts had sharp eyes and could see that Su Yi's movement technique was already extraordinary. This fist technique definitely surpassed movement techniques. That aura might have come from a cultivation technique and not a martial skill. That youth is only at the Yuan Profound Realm. To be able to learn a king rank martial skill is already extraordinary. To be able to learn a royal rank martial skill is already considered a genius, a monster. If it's a stronger martial skill, it's impossible to cultivate it successfully. There were some elders who sighed in amazement, seeing through some clues. No matter how talented a youth at the origin profound realm was, it was already a miracle for him to be able to cultivate a royal-grade martial skill. Even if a Yuan profound realm cultivator was able to learn a royal-grade martial skill, it would still be difficult for them to truly unleash the might of a royal-grade martial skill. Instead, it would consume a large amount of energy, and the might of the royal-grade martial skill would be insufficient. Sometimes it would be even worse than a low-grade martial skill. As for a higher-grade martial skill, an Yuan profound realm cultivator wouldn't be able to cultivate it successfully. Therefore, the terrifying aura on the youth's body might have something to do with the cultivation technique he was cultivating. It was a long story, but the speed of the battle was as fast as lightning. When Su Yi threw out a punch, the surrounding heaven and earth energy fluctuated. Traces of heaven and earth energy that seemed to have materialized suddenly seeped out from the void and condensed around Su Yi's fist. Gugu. In the field, Hu Qi and Shangwan Chunfeng were already dumbfounded when they saw Su Yi heavily injuring the fierce scarlet wild bear with a single punch. At this moment, they could feel the terrifying aura on Su Yi's body from afar. Hu Qi and Shangwan Chunfeng both sucked in a breath of cold air. They could feel that the might of this foreign youth's punch was even more terrifying than the previous one. The might that spread out from afar already made them feel a chill in their hearts. At this moment, Su Yi naturally didn't know that when he used the Overlord Fist, the crowd was already indescribably shocked. At this moment, Su Yi was only staring at Xiongzhan's punch. At the same time, the Overlord Fist was filled with an intense scarlet radiance. It was like a blazing sun that made it hard for people to look at it directly. Xiongzhan was very strong. He was the strongest peer that Su Yi had encountered so far. However, his cultivation at the 7th level of Yuan Profound Realm didn't make Su Yi cower. Instead, it aroused the battle intent and bloodthirst in Su Yi's heart. If he couldn't even defeat Xiongzhan, how could he talk about stepping onto the towering sacred mountain? Under thousands of gazes, the two fists fiercely collided. There weren't any fancy moves. It was the most direct collision. The moment the two fists collided, the space trembled. The surrounding air was like a calm water surface that had a bomb thrown into it. It suddenly exploded and a shock wave filled the sky. Crack, crack. With the two as the epicenter, the ground of the plaza began to crack. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the cracks rapidly spread and the rocks along the way were directly turned into dust. As the two fists collided, two red radiances erupted. The scarlet radiance on Xiongzhan's fist was like a flame that was incomparably hot. The radiance on Su Yi's fist was scarlet red and resplendent, overbearing and destructive. As the radiance erupted, gales surged. The plaza continued to crack as air waves filled the sky. Such a terrifying, destructive power filled the surrounding onlookers with shock and astonishment. The confrontation between two Yuan Profound Realm youths had actually caused such a frightening scene. How shocking was this? The difference is too great. Some of the younger peers looked at the two youths in the plaza as they inwardly trembled with fear. They felt that they didn't even have the qualifications to touch them. They were all from the younger generation, but the difference between them was too great. This difference wasn't purely due to the difference in cultivation level. More importantly, it was due to the aura and might of the two. Under thousands of shocked gazes, the two fists collided like two meteorites. Under such frightening, destructive power and might, everyone couldn't help but hold their breaths as they waited. No one knew who would be the final victor in such a frightening confrontation. Everything happened very quickly. As the two fists collided, light erupted. After a short confrontation, under the crowd's gazes, the space between the two fists violently fluctuated like boiling water. It suddenly expanded and finally exploded. Bang, bang, bang. A series of sonic booms resounded as a glaring scarlet radiance shot into the sky. Violent gales swept out from the plaza and formed a storm, causing the plaza to shake. Retreat. Around the plaza, some of the younger generation subconsciously retreated. The energy gales that spread out made them feel terrified. Pucci. Chapter 255. It was obvious that the body that was sent flying was Xiongzhan. Everyone was dumbfounded. Xiongzhan, an expert who defeated Hu Qi with a single punch, was defeated in the same way. With the addition of a barbaric beast as a mount, Xiongzhan's defeat was even more miserable. The experts and elders of the barbarian bear tribe stood up and looked at Xiongzhan, who was sent flying. They couldn't believe their eyes and were stunned. 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. Xiongzhan is at the 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. How is this possible? An expert from the barbarian bear tribe spoke. His face was pale. Everyone could feel that the foreign youth was only at the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. How could they believe that he could heavily injure Xiongzhan, who was at the 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm, with a single move? PFFF. Xiongzhan crawled up from the ground as dark red blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His fist was slightly broken and dripping with blood. The armor on Xiongzhan's body was much dimmer, and his face was as pale as ash. His hair was messy, and he was in a sorry state. Looking at Su Yi, the shock in Xiongzhan's eyes was more intense than anyone else's. He was at the 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm and cultivated the Savage Scripture, which had a physical body tempering technique. Among those of the same cultivation level, he could easily defeat his opponents. Furthermore, the foreign youth in front of him only had the aura of the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. Xiongzhan's eyes were dazed from shock. He had defeated Hu Qi and swept through his opponents. He originally thought that he was the strongest among his peers, but the unforeseen event at this moment made Xiongzhan unable to react and unable to accept it. Su Yi looked at Xiongzhan. There was a faint scarlet radiance in his eyes. Su Yi looked at Xiongzhan. Suddenly, he felt a tremor behind him. He subconsciously turned around and saw a colossal creature standing there. Its ferocious eyes were glowing as it looked down at him. Oh! The roar of a beast was like thunder. At this moment, the fierce scarlet wild bear stood up. For some reason, the wound on the fierce scarlet wild bear's paw was emitting a scarlet radiance. It was actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The dispirited aura on his body also began to rise. Its aura was rising too quickly, and it even stirred up some kind of energy fluctuation in the surroundings, causing the surface of the raging red wild bear to be shrouded in a scarlet light that was dazzling and resplendent. Su Yi's eyes trembled. He could feel that the fierce red wild bear's aura, which had been severely injured, seemed to have recovered in an instant. It was even rising rapidly, as if it was breaking through. Among the wild bear tribe. Those elders and experts also turned their gazes to the red wild bear. Amidst their astonishment, some people's shocked gazes immediately turned to joy. The scarlet wild bear is going berserk, triggering those benefits. It is forcefully breaking through. Great elder, blazing red wild bear's eyes flickered. It was clear that his heart was fluctuating. There's a chance, we still have a chance. The fierce scarlet wild bear's berserk transformation brought about those benefits. Some of the experts became nervous and excited when they saw Xiongzhan being sent flying with a single punch. Their mood had fallen from heaven to hell, but at this moment, they were once again filled with excitement. They were the clearest about how powerful the fierce scarlet wild bear's body was. At this moment, the fierce scarlet wild bear's berserk transformation seemed to have triggered those benefits, so the result was different. The wild bear tribe still had hope of winning. The fierce scarlet wild bear has gone berserk. The berserk fierce scarlet wild bear is the most terrifying. On the square, the movements of the fierce scarlet wild bear immediately attracted everyone's attention. Someone exclaimed. Everyone knew that the fierce scarlet wild bear was very powerful. What was truly terrifying about the fierce scarlet wild bear was its unique berserk talent. It was rumored that after going berserk, the fierce scarlet wild bear's fighting strength would increase by several times. It was said that a fierce scarlet wild bear, after going berserk, was enough to fight against opponents of a higher level. Something's not right. This fierce scarlet wild bear's berserk transformation is a little different. In the tribe of tiger hunters, who Ben, the dignified old man, and the other elders and experts all revealed looks of astonishment. With their cultivation and eyesight, they could naturally feel that the aura on the fierce scarlet wild bear was very abnormal. Boom! On the square, a scarlet light soared into the sky. The aura of the fierce scarlet wild bear suddenly exploded. The blazing aura was like an eruption of a mountain torrent. With a rumbling sound, it surged and surged. Roar! Above the terrifying scarlet light, suddenly, an even larger phantom of a fierce scarlet wild bear that was several hundred meters tall faintly appeared. Its roar was like thunder, shaking the entire square. It even revealed a huge beast aura that descended. Roar! Such a beast aura caused the wild beasts around the square to tremble and roar. Their eyes were filled with fear. 8th level demon, profound realm. No, this isn't normal. The elders of the spirit ancient village, Shangwan Qingming, and the other experts also stood up. They all felt that something was wrong. No matter what, the fierce scarlet wild bear that had gone berserk would not be able to break through. Great Elder, did this fierce scarlet wild bear consume the blood essence left behind by the old bear of your wild bear tribe? The village chief, Shangwan Qingya, turned her gaze from the fierce scarlet wild bear to the great elder of the wild bear tribe. Good eyesight. Not bad. The great elder of the wild bear tribe nodded. There was nothing to hide. With a smile on his face, he said to Shangwan Qingya, I don't think this is against the rules, right? The wild bear tribe is really generous. Shangwan Qingya's face was calm. However, everyone could see that there was a slight change in her expression. It is indeed the blood essence of that old bear. The elders of the spirit ancient village were moved. They had already guessed it from the beginning, because there was an old demon royal realm fierce scarlet wild bear in the wild bear tribe. If that fierce scarlet wild bear could leave behind its blood essence, it would be enough to complete the second fierce scarlet wild bear. After obtaining the blood essence of a demon royal realm fierce scarlet wild bear, the young fierce scarlet wild bear would become even more powerful. Now, the movement of the fierce scarlet wild bear was clearly related to the demon royal realm fierce scarlet wild bear. LV8 demon profound realm. What a strong aura. In the field, the one who could feel the strong beast pressure the most was Su Yi, who was closest to it. In just a short period of time, he saw the fierce scarlet wild bear rise to LV8 demon profound realm. It had broken through one LV1 demon profound realm. What shocked Su even more was that the aura of the fierce scarlet wild bear was very strange. In particular, there was a looming shadow of the fierce scarlet wild bear on its body. It was extremely huge and imposing. It seemed to be able to resist the aura of the Origin Supreme technique on his body. This was very abnormal. Roar! The fierce scarlet wild bear attacked. Its aura was still rising. It directly attacked Su Yi. Its eyes were crimson red, and its aura was violet. Its huge bear paw directly slapped at Su Yi. Chapter 256. The aura of this scarlet wild bear was much stronger than before. Although the difference between the 7th and 8th level of the demon profound realm was only a small level, it was actually a huge gap. For ordinary people, it was an insurmountable gap. Fuyao's 100 transformation steps. Su Yi moved. This scarlet wild bear was very strange, and its aura was surging. Su Yi didn't want to be rash. The yuan qi under his feet swept out as Su Yi stepped out with the Fuyao's 100 transformation steps. His figure moved rapidly, and his movements were ever-changing. His figure rushed out from the energy light like a lightning. Crack, crack. At the place where Su Yi was standing, the surrounding ground cracked, the rocks shattered into fine powder. Dust flew everywhere, and Su Yi's figure seemed to have rushed out from the pile of rocks. Light surged on Su Yi's body, and he was wrapped in a scarlet light. Su Yi didn't dare to be careless. This was related to the future of the spirit ancient village and the Origin Supreme technique. However, the aura of the Origin Supreme technique on Su Yi's body was able to intimidate the barbarian beasts around the square. However, it didn't seem to have any effect on the scarlet wild bear. The huge shadow around the scarlet wild bear was filled with a powerful beast aura. It seemed to be able to resist the aura of the Origin Supreme technique on Su Yi's body. Seeing that Su Yi had escaped from the bear's paw, the scarlet wild bear retracted its paw and looked down at Su Yi with its scarlet eyes. Its entire body was glowing with scarlet light, as if it was filled with a divine splendor. Its violent aura was emitting a terrifying fluctuation. The aura of the scarlet wild bear was still rising. However, it didn't stop attacking. It took a step forward and slammed its paw towards Su Yi again. The bear paw swooped down in an arc, as if it wanted to grab Su Yi in the palm of its hand. Scarlet flame palm, explode. Su Yi's eyes darkened. This wasn't a solution. He wanted to test it out. His black hair fluttered as he withdrew his scarlet flame palm and faced the bear head-on. Bang! The fist and palm collided with each other, producing an astonishing muffled sound. There was even a loud explosion like a clap of thunder. Ding dang! The red raging wild bear was forced back a few steps, but this time, Su Yi was also forced back. His body staggered back, and the ground under his feet cracked. In the last few steps, the soles of his feet rotated and tapped lightly on the ground, using force to offset force. This was the offset formula of the rising Yao 100 transformation steps. Only then did he stabilize his body. Su Yi was very surprised. The fierce red wild bear seemed to be continuing to strengthen, and it even had an incomparable berserk aura. Most new/chapter UD previous, however, Su Yi wasn't afraid. He could even defeat the rock-splitting demon tiger, who was at the peak of the 9th tier of the demon profound realm, let alone the fierce red wild bear, who was only at the 8th tier of the demon profound realm. The fierce red wild bear was forced back, but there wasn't any shock in its eyes. Instead, it seemed to have become even more berserk. A pair of ferocious eyes constantly emitted crimson light. The light in the fierce red wild bear's eyes seemed to have turned into 2 red thunderbolts. Its huge body rushed out again, and it raised its huge bear paw to grab Su Yi. "You're getting serious, aren't you?" Su Yi's face darkened, and he rushed out again. His hands were constantly forming seals, and he immediately launched another attack. Although Su Yi didn't cultivate many martial skills, there were only a few of them. However, at Su Yi's current level, coupled with the rising Yao 100 transformation steps, he could deal with it easily. A man and a bear, under the stunned gazes of the crowd, continued to fight. The entire square was dazzling, and the energy wind was intertwined. Sand and stones were flying everywhere, and the sound waves were rumbling nonstop. In the blink of an eye, the two sides had already clashed more than 10 times. However, something strange happened. In the beginning, Su Yi seemed to be able to gain the upper hand. However, after more than 10 collisions, the fierce red wild bear became more and more powerful. In addition to the fierce red wild bear's beast aura and the strange berserk power, it seemed to be unafraid of death. Su Yi was gradually suppressed to a disadvantage. Su Yi had once killed the rock-splitting demon tiger, who was in the 9th level of the demon profound realm. However, that was because he had taken advantage of the aura of the Origin Supreme technique. Now, the fierce red wild bear was very strange. The beast aura of the shadow seemed to be able to resist the aura of the Origin Supreme technique on Su Yi's body. At the same time, the aura of the fierce red wild bear continued to rise. As for Su Yi, the consumption of using the Overlord Fist and injuring the fierce red wild bear for the first time increased. It became more and more difficult for Su Yi. Bang! The man and the bear collided again. This time, Su Yi staggered and his body was pushed back again. The blood in his chest was surging, and he felt something sweet in his throat. He was about to spit out a mouthful of blood, but he forced himself to hold it back. However, this time, the fierce red wild bear only staggered back and stabilized its body. Boom! At the same time, the aura of the fierce red wild bear continued to rise. It seemed to have reached a critical point again. A surge of aura surged violently. After a short pause, it seemed to have broken through the bottleneck and reached a new level. The 9th level of the demon profound realm. Oh my god, what's wrong with the fierce red wild bear? Around the square, there were some people with high cultivation. They felt that the fierce red wild bear's aura continued to rise. In a short period of time, it actually rose from the 8th level of the demon profound realm to the 9th level of the demon profound realm. They were so shocked that they could not retract their jaws. Ha! The heavens are helping our wild bear tribe. In the wild bear tribe, Elder Xiong-san and the other experts were secretly laughing. After the fierce red wild bear went berserk, it was still able to draw such benefits and continue to break through. The heavens were helping the wild bear tribe. The fierce red wild bear is still rising. This is going to be troublesome. The mood of the old man from the spirit ancient village was like a roller coaster today. It was constantly fluctuating, from the initial advantage to the defeat of the barbaric heavenly leopard and Shangwan Chinfeng, to Su Yi severely injuring the fierce red wild bear in one move and defeating Xiongzhan in one move. It could be said that there were enough ups and downs. But now, who would have thought that the fierce red wild bear would have such a change? The fierce red wild bear is still breaking through. This is cheating. Shangwan Qingming looked at the wild bear tribe and shouted. This was cheating. This was not normal at all. Shangwan Qingming, don't be so shameless. You want to go back on your words after seeing that you're about to lose? Who said that we can't break through during the battle? Since when did we cheat? Your spirit ancient village is fighting on behalf of others. Elder Xiong-san replied. Compared to the wild bear tribe, the spirit ancient village was more like cheating by letting an outsider fight on their behalf. Shangwan Qingming was speechless. Speaking of which, the barbarian bear tribe did not cheat at all, nor did they violate any rules. Shangwan Chinfeng, Shangwan Shui, and the others held their breaths and waited. Their hearts were in their throats. Chapter 257. Xiongzhan had already stuffed a healing elixir into his mouth. He retreated far away and stared at Su Yi and the red wild bear. He did not participate in the battle as he was too weak to fight. His face was still filled with shock as he found it hard to accept the fact that he was defeated in one move. 9th tier of the demon profound realm. Su Yi stabilized his body. When he saw that the red wild bear had reached the 9th tier of the demon profound realm, his eyes were filled with shock. The red wild bear was continuously breaking through his defenses. Looks like I have to give it a try today. After recovering from his shock, Su Yi's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. There was no fear in his eyes. He took down the sword and the blade on his back and stabbed them into the ground. Some people were confused. Judging from his appearance, the foreign young man had a weapon. But why did he throw it away when he was clearly at a disadvantage? No one knew that Su Yi's fighting spirit had been aroused. It wasn't like he hadn't fought a 9th level demon, profound realm barbarian beast before. Furthermore, the broken sword on his back weighed more than 3,000 pounds. With it on his back, his speed and strength would be restricted. Crackle, crackle. When he took down the sword and the blade, Su Yi twisted his neck. His joints and bones were crackling. He felt indescribably relaxed. The crimson wild bear stared at Su Yi. The crimson light in its eyes became even more intense. At the same time, the crimson light on its body became even more dazzling, as if there was a flame burning within it. The gigantic shadow was like the king of beasts, the demon king, looking down at Su Yi. Its aura was many times stronger than when it was at the 8th tier of the demon profound realm. Roar! The red wild bear's aura did not show any signs of stopping. It continued to pounce on Su Yi. The bear's paw slapped down with surging scarlet light. It was as if flames were about to burst out. It was a ferocious beast. So strong, everyone couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. How powerful was this power? They couldn't help but inwardly gasp for Su Yi. Rumble. In a flash, the bear's paw fell down, and the surrounding stones in the square where Su Yi was standing turned into dust. Crack, crack. The cracks on the ground spread rapidly in all directions, and the power was shocking to the soul. However, Su Yi escaped from the bear's paw with incredible speed and changes. His body turned to the back of the red wild bear. He formed a hand seal and punched out a powerful punch. Bang, bang, bang. One man and one bear fought fiercely together again, and it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. The red raging wild bear was ferocious and violent, its attacks ferocious, sweeping in all directions. Su Yi's figure was fleeting, changing constantly, nimble and swift, his attacks majestic and destructive. No, Yi's speed and strength. His speed and strength increased at the same time. When he removed the sword, his shoulders also straightened a little. It seems that the sword on the young man's back is not light. It seems that Su is tempering himself. He is tempering his physique. This is hard work. Feeling the change in Su Yi, some experts with sharp eyes quickly saw the clues and were very surprised. It turned out that the young man had been carrying the sword on his back. He did not put it in the space bag because he was tempering his body. At this moment, when Su Yi removed the burden, both his speed and strength were rising. His body was relaxed, and the 100 steps of rising glory became faster. This made Su Yi fearless. The more he fought, the braver he became. The vitality in his body surged and burst out. The red wild bear roared, carrying a rolling beast's power. It kept pouncing on Su Yi. Coupled with the red wild bear's talent, its power was astonishing. The aura of the red wild bear was still rising. After dozens of exchanges, Su Yi's figure staggered back again and again under the astonished gazes of the audience. His face was getting paler and paler. Su Yi consumed a lot of energy. Relying on the 100 steps of rising glory, it was difficult to completely avoid the red wild bear's violent attacks. The number of times the red wild bear was pushed back decreased, and its aura was getting stronger. As time passed, Su Yi was being suppressed more and more. Brother Su, hold on. In the Spirit Ancient Village's lineup, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yu, and the others clenched their fists. This is too shocking. The red wild bear is almost at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Profound Realm. That kid is actually able to contend with it. The experts in the arena were whispering in shock. Most of their attention was not on the red wild bear, but on Su Yi. Such a young man, compared to Hu Qi, Shengguan Qinfeng, and Xiongzhan, was a few years younger, but his strength was so powerful. He was actually able to fight with a berserk red wild bear that was almost at the peak of the 9th level of the Origin Profound Realm. With such talent, no one in the Spirit Ancient Village, Wild Bear Tribe, or Tribe of Tiger Hunters could compare to him. The aura of the red wild bear gradually slowed down. When it reached the peak of the 9th level of the Demon Profound Realm, it was getting slower and slower. However, the faintly discernible red wild bear's figure was getting clearer and clearer, and the beast's aura was getting denser. Illo, the red wild bear, slapped down with its paw. Scarlet light surged and violently clashed with Su Yi. PFFF. This time, Su Yi could no longer hold it in. A muffled sound came from his throat as his figure was sent flying. A mouthful of dark red blood spurted out from his mouth. Boom! Su Yi's figure crashed on the ground. The surrounding stone slabs turned into dust. The aura in his body was in turmoil, and the aura of his entire body had withered. Boom! However, the red wild bear did not stop. It charged towards Su Yi in a frenzy. Its huge paw stomped down on Su Yi, as if it wanted to stomp him into meat paste. Su Yi quickly got up and retreated. He managed to escape from the danger. Boom! The paw of the bear fell beside Su Yi and stepped on the corner of his clothes, tearing a large part of his clothes. A violent gale swept through and shook Su Yi, causing him to stagger and almost fall down again. The red wild bear's eyes were scarlet red. Its fury did not diminish as it chased after Su Yi. Su Yi could not avoid it in time. His face darkened. In an instant, all the Yuan Qi in his Dantian's Yuan Qi whirlpool was converted to the earth attribute. The last wave of Yuan Qi surged through a specific meridian and finally gathered in his right foot. 8 barren fury, suppressing the mountains and rivers with a single foot. #original version Premier Su Yi shouted in his heart. His eyes suddenly flashed with a dazzling light like lightning. His tattered clothes fluttered in the wind, and his black hair fluttered behind him. His aura was indescribable, as if it was filled with the fury of thunder. In an instant, Su-Yi stepped out with his right foot. The Yuan Qi whirlpool under his foot swept out like a storm. His foot stomped down on the ground. Boom! When his foot landed, the entire square trembled, and a muffled boom sounded. A woo! Under such an aura, the surrounding barbaric beasts trembled and roared continuously. Their bodies were crawling in fear. Rumble. From where Su-Yi's foot landed, circles of black earth attribute Yuan Qi energy swept out like waves and spread towards the red wild bear at lightning speed. Ka. Chapter 258. Powerful Yuan Qi rushed out from the ground and gathered in all directions. Finally, it gathered together and charged towards the fierce red wild bear's foot. Roar! But at this moment, the fierce red wild bear's huge paw came crashing down with blazing scarlet light. Dang dang! Under the huge impact, the fierce red wild bear's huge body was lifted up and it staggered back. It roared in pain from its foot. However, the fierce red wild bear did not fall down. Instead, a mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of its hideous mouth. PFFF. Su-Yi was hit by the impact, and his body was sent flying once again. He spat out another mouthful of blood and landed heavily on the ground. Bang bang. The surrounding sand and stones were blown up. Some of the stones exploded in the air. The momentum was shocking. Su-Yi should be defeated. Everyone's eyes were trembling. No one felt that Su-Yi wasn't strong enough. On the contrary, they were deeply shocked. To be able to fight with a 9th-level demon, profound realm, fierce red wild bear that had gone berserk, no one in the younger generation of the tribe of tiger hunters, wild bear tribe, or spirit ancient village could do this. Brother Yi-Su, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yu, and the others' hearts were in their throats. Su-Yi stood up again. His body was stained with blood, and his clothes were dyed red. His face was as pale as ash. He can still stand up. Unbelievable. His physique is definitely strong. His physique seems to be stronger than Xiongzhan. He can still stand up after taking several heavy blows from the fierce red wild bear. Xiongzhan's physique is probably unable to stand up anymore. Some experts exclaimed, but it didn't escape their vicious gazes. The physique of the outsider was also so strong that it was even stronger than Xiongzhan's. The fierce red wild bear looked at Su-Yi, who stood up again. Its scarlet eyes became even more berserk. Coupled with the pain from its foot, it couldn't bear it anymore. It roared and pounced towards Yi-Su again. Brother Yi-Su, be careful. Shangguan Yi and the others clenched their fists tightly. It was not difficult to see that the Yi-Su brothers could no longer hold on. Su-Yi did not retreat. There was no fear in his eyes as he continued to resist. Bang! Su-Yi was once again sent flying, crashing into the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood, completely defeated. However, under everyone's astonished gazes, the thin youth stood up once again, and the bloodstains on the front of his clothes became even brighter. Oh my God, is he okay? Someone in the crowd couldn't help but cry out. He was already so heavily injured, yet this young man could still stand up. Brother Yi-Su, forget it. You've already done your best. Shangguan Rock and the others cried out softly with tears in their eyes. This was Yi-Su's battle in Spirit Ancient Village. Brother Yi-Su, stop fighting. Shangguan Xiao and some other girls had tears in their eyes. Shangguan Shui stared intently at the field, her gaze fluctuating, her pearly white teeth biting her tender red lips, using more and more force. Continue. Su-Yi's body was swaying, but after standing up, he took the initiative to pounce on the fierce red wild bear. Head, hair, roar. The fierce red wild bear's aura finally calmed down at the peak of the 9th level of the demon profound realm. It looked down at Su-Yi, who had taken the initiative to pounce on him, and kicked out with its giant foot, trying to sweep Su-Yi away. Poochie. The outcome was as expected. Su-Yi's figure was like a kite that had its string cut, and blood sprayed out from his mouth as he fiercely fell over 100 m away. Once again, Su Yi landed heavily on the ground. His body was buried under the rubble from the explosion. His entire body was buried under the rubble. This time, Su Yi did not get up. It was as if he had stopped moving. Phew! Everyone's eyes were trembling as they stared at the youth who had landed on the ground. They wondered if there would be a miracle and if the youth could still get up. He's too powerful. He has already tried his best, but the fierce red wild bear is already at the peak of the 9th level of the demon profound realm. It's impossible for him to stand a chance. An expert spoke. The youth had already tried his best. He can't be dead, right? Someone was worried. After suffering so many heavy blows from the fierce red wild bear, an ordinary peak of the 9th level of the profound realm wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, the youth was only at the 6th level of the profound realm. There was already a huge gap between him and the fierce red wild bear. Originally, everyone in the wild bear tribe hoped that the youth would lose. But now, even though the youth had already lost and was no longer a match for the fierce red wild bear, no matter if it was the younger generation or the elders, they couldn't be happy. Instead, they were shocked. The youth from the outside was shockingly powerful, and he had shocked everyone present. Grandma! Shangguan Shiwei's expression was grave as she spoke to her grandma. Her fair and slender fingers had unknowingly clenched together. The situation was clear. Isu was no longer able to fight back. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Shangguan Chengye's gaze was filled with nervousness. She looked at the battlefield and softly said, "He has already tried his best." Hearing her words, the elders and experts of the spirit ancient village felt rather regretful. They could tell that Isu had already tried his best. Who would have thought that the fierce red wild bear would suddenly have a breakthrough in the middle of the battle? Otherwise, Isu would have already won. "We've lost." Shangguan Chengye opened her mouth and wanted to announce their defeat. If this continued, the consequences would be severe. Wait, something's wrong. Suddenly, Shangguan Chengye seemed to have noticed something. Her eyes were filled with brilliance as she looked at the pile of rubble from afar. Hula! Right at this moment, there was a fluctuation from the pile of rubble that buried Su Yi. A scarlet radiance rushed out from the crack. In an instant, the aura surged and the radiance burst out. It was a very shocking sight. This movement immediately caused all eyes to be fixed on it. At the same time, the ferocious eyes of the berserk fierce red wild bear also looked towards the stone pile with a curious expression. Within the pile of rubble, the aura was surging and the scarlet radiance was becoming more and more dazzling. It seemed to be invisibly affecting the surrounding energy of heaven and earth. As a result, a strange scene appeared. Within the pile of rubble, there was a surge of aura that was surging, rising, and violently surging. Accompanied by the invisible energy of heaven and earth, the aura intertwined and surged crazily. "It's that young man," someone exclaimed. This movement came from within the pile of rubble. Naturally, it was related to the young man, Isu. Boom! Soon after, there was a dull sound of energy within the pile of rubble, following which the entire pile of rubble exploded and surged in all directions. A shocking aura swept across the plaza. Rumble! The radiance was dazzling as sand and rubble flew and covered the surroundings. When everything settled down, a slender and straight figure appeared. His hair was dancing behind his back, and his tattered clothes were fluttering. The radiance on his body was dazzling as his aura surged and continued to rise. This figure was none other than Su Yi, 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. This young man is also breaking through. Chapter 259. At this very moment, the young man's aura had risen from the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm to the 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm, and it was still rising. 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. Isu is breaking through. Within the spirit ancient village, all of the elders who had just been dispirited and despondent were now filled with joy. At this very moment, Isu was also breaking through. I see. He is purposely stimulating the hidden power of the monster core in his body. Not far away, Su Tianke, who had been silent all this while, stood on a stone stool. The astonishment in his eyes dissipated and was replaced with a smile. Rumble, the area around Su, he had already turned into a stone pit. The violent aura was like a bomb that ignited its fuse. His aura continued to rise, and the Dantian's Yuan Qi whirlpool was like a hurricane. This scene was extremely shocking under the watchful eyes of the crowd. And all of this was done intentionally by Su Yi. After suffering such heavy injuries, Su Yi wasn't looking for a beating. Instead, it aroused the stubbornness in his heart. So what if the monster core was at the peak of the 9th level of the demon profound realm? Back then, the rock-splitting demon tiger was also killed by him. Wasn't it just a series of breakthroughs? There was still a large amount of monster core energy hidden in his body. However, the hidden monster core energy wasn't something that Su Yi could control. Moreover, the monster core energy couldn't be immediately used by him. Therefore, he purposely used the scarlet wild bear to stimulate the hidden monster core energy in his body. Once the monster core energy was stimulated, he would use the Origin Supreme technique to forcefully rise. At this moment, Su Yi couldn't avoid the consequences of forcefully breaking through. The future of the Spirit Ancient Village was on him. He couldn't afford to lose. According to Su Yi's guess, he only needed to break through to the 7th level of the Yuan Profound Realm to defeat the Scarlet Wild Bear. But at this moment, the monster core energy in his body was stimulated and gushed out from his limbs, bones, and muscles. How could Su Yi easily suppress it? Along with the surrounding energy of heaven and earth, Su Yi's aura continued to rise. It was getting faster and more violent. This appearance was almost exactly the same as the fierce Scarlet Wild Bear's consecutive attacks. Isu is also breaking through, and he hasn't stopped yet. Could it be that he's also breaking through consecutively? Everyone present was dumbfounded. They had thought that the youth Isu had already lost regretfully, and that it was impossible for him to change anything. He had already been seriously injured to such an extent. Who would have thought that at this final moment, the youth Isu would actually start to break through in succession, just like the fierce Scarlet Wild Bear? Hula, the formless energy of heaven and earth, was still surging in from the surroundings of the square. It was endless and intertwined with the energy of the monster core in Su Yi's body, causing Yuan Qi to continuously surge into Su Yi's Yuan Qi vortex. Su Yi continued to grow stronger, and the aura on his body continued to rise at a terrifying speed. Sensing Su Yi's aura, the raging crimson wild bear's crimson eyes were filled with shock. As the aura on Su Yi's body rose violently, the Origin Supreme technique surged violently. His aura was imposing and destructive, and the surrounding savage beasts prostrated themselves in worship. The raging crimson wild bear was instinctively fearful. Within the enormous raging crimson wild bear shadow, there were ripples in its eyes. There was no way to control it. The energy of the monster core was too crazy. The energy of the monster core had been forcefully suppressed in Su Yi's body for the past few days. Now that it was stimulated, it was equivalent to an explosion of volcanic eruption. It was hard for Su Yi to suppress it. Bang! Soon enough, Su Yi's Dantian's vortex emitted another muffled sound. The Yuan Qi vortex in his Dantian grew bigger and bigger. The violent Yuan Qi undulations and energy surged, and the aura on his body reached a new level. Everything was like a hot knife through butter, and the momentum was like thunder. 8th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. All the experts present were astonished. They were so astonished that they couldn't retract their jaws. Is he a monster? The tribe of tiger hunters, the wild bear tribe, and the other younger generations were already dumbfounded. It was difficult for them to break through even one level, but right now, Isu was continuously breaking through in front of them. Heavens, he broke through again. Isu broke through again. The Spirit Ancient Village was shocked and excited. Some of the elders were so happy that they danced with joy. They couldn't suppress the excitement and joy in their hearts. At the 8th level of the Yuan Profound Realm, Su Yi's rising aura began to slow down. Although the energy of the monster core in his body was originally vigorous, it felt like it had been completely consumed. Going from the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm to the 8th level of the Yuan Profound Realm required much more energy than going from the 2nd level of the Yuan Profound Realm to the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. When the rising aura stopped at the 8th level of the Yuan Profound Realm, the scarlet light around Su Yi's body became so resplendent that it was dazzling. His aura trembled, his hair danced wildly, and his pale face glowed with a rosy glow. All of this made him look even more heroic and imposing. Looking at the raging crimson wild bear in front of him, Su Yi's eyes were filled with battle intent as he said, "Evil creature, do you think you are the only one who can break through? Illo." In response to Su Yi's provocation, the raging crimson wild bear roared furiously. Its voice was like the clanging of thunder as scarlet flames gushed out from its body. The scarlet light was powerful and terrifying as a strange energy condensed on the bear's paw. Walala, as the energy condensed, the raging crimson wild bear's paw seemed to be covered by a layer of sparkling and translucent scarlet crystals. However, the blazing aura suddenly soared. Opening its bloody mouth, the raging crimson wild bear dashed forward. The scarlet crystal-covered bear paw also swatted out. The scarlet crystal bear paw's current target was Su Yi. The bear paw contained a terrifying, blazing aura, and the enormous raging crimson wild bear's phantasm responded to it. Light filled the air, and wherever the bear paw passed, it faintly left behind a long scarlet mark in the empty space. The scarlet light was like the sun. This is the raging crimson wild bear's innate ultimate move. Some of the elders from the spirit ancient village had solemn gazes. At this moment, the raging crimson wild bear had already reached its berserk limit. In the face of such an attack, very few Yuan profound stage practitioners would be able to escape unscathed. The might of the raging crimson wild bear's attack was too terrifying. Its might shook one's soul, causing the hearts of the surrounding onlookers to palpitate. The raging crimson wild bear was also considered a descendant of the demonic clan. Its might was frightening. Although the crowd from the spirit ancient village had also sensed Su Yi's breakthrough, their hearts still rose to their throats. "Do you really think that I am unable to deal with an evil creature like you? Break!" With a loud shout, Su Yi's eyes suddenly sunk. The aura of the 8th level Yuan profound stage that he had just broken through unreservedly swept out. The Yuan Qi within his entire Dantian's Yuan Qi whirlpool instantly gathered on his right fist. With a shake of his arm, Su Yi punched out. Light erupted from his fist as it directly collided with the enormous bear paw. Rumble! When the two collided, the clear sound of wind and thunder resounded. It was like the rumbling of thunder, as if an overlord had awakened and an emperor had descended. Chapter 260. Boom! Scarlet light and raging flames rushed out from the square. As the energy violently swept out, the surrounding ground could not withstand the impact of this energy. The thick stone slabs were lifted up and shattered inch by inch. A terrifying energy storm filled the air, and wherever it passed, space trembled. The surrounding onlookers were aghast and immediately retreated. They did not expect the battle between Yi Su and the red raging wild bear to cause such a terrifying scene. The huge wind formed a shockwave that shot out like a storm. Ayo, puff! At the same time, with a mournful roar, the huge body of the red raging wild bear was sent flying. Blood sprayed out of its mouth as it heavily smashed into the ground. Bang, bang. The red raging wild bear smashed into the ground, causing the square to shake. Blood flowed out of its mouth, and the bear paw that had just collided was badly mutilated. On the body of the red raging wild bear, the originally faintly discernible phantom of the red raging wild bear had already dimmed and disappeared. Its pair of fierce eyes revealed fear and shock. As for Su Yi, his body was only slightly pushed back 3 steps. His body was shrouded in light, and his eyes were shining with a crimson light. for no reason. There was a supreme power that revealed a majestic destruction. The entire square was silent, dumbfounded. Goo-goo. A moment later, the sound of saliva being swallowed rose and fell. Oh! The red raging wild bear roared and struggled to get up from the ground. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the crimson light in its fierce eyes dissipated. Facing Sue-yi, its eyes were filled with shock. Evil creature, how dare you be so fierce? With a stomp of his foot, Sue-yi's figure flew out and landed directly on the back of the red raging wild bear. Oh! The red raging wild bear's body trembled as it crawled on the ground and let out a low roar. So fierce. Isu is so handsome. Everyone was shocked. That young man had shocked everyone. Young girls from the hunting tiger tribe and the barbarian bear tribe were attracted to him. Xiongzhan's face was deathly pale as he stared at the youth standing on the fierce scarlet wild bear. The arrogance in his eyes gradually receded, leaving behind only shock. He's way ahead of us. Hu Qi muttered to himself. We won. Look at X, chapter equals M above section. At this moment, the group of elders and experts in the spirit ancient village felt their emotions climb to the peak like a roller coaster, and they couldn't help but exclaim excitedly. They originally thought that they were going to lose for sure, but they never thought that Isu would actually make a breakthrough in the middle of the battle. In the end, he defeated the fierce red wild bear in the most simple and direct way. Good job, brother Isu. Isu, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yi, and the rest of the younger generation recovered from their shock. The solemn expression on their faces was replaced by pleasant surprise as they cheered with excitement. Where did this young man come from? He's too strong. The elder of the tribe of tiger hunters sighed, deeply shocked. The people of the wild bear tribe, at this moment, were still in a daze. They thought that victory was already in their hands, but they didn't expect another accident to happen. That foreign young man was so terrifying. Still not announcing the result, Shangguan Qingming said loudly with an excited expression on his face. The final result is the spirit ancient village wins. The elder of the wild bear tribe, who had been presiding over the competition, recovered from his disbelief at this moment. He looked at his companions in the wild bear tribe. Although he was unwilling to accept the result, he didn't act shamelessly. He announced the result, but his voice was a little bit clenched. Boom! We won. At this moment, the thousands of villagers from the spirit ancient village were boiling with excitement, and their shouts were deafening. I didn't let you down. Suyi's lips curled into a smile. The aura on his body began to dissipate. His vision turned black, and his body became weak. Then he fell down from the fierce red wild bear's back. Brother Isu. Seeing Isu fall down, Shangguan Rock's voice came from the crowd, and he immediately rushed out. The space fluctuated, and a hunchback figure appeared beside Sue-yi, catching Sue-yi, who hadn't fallen to the ground yet. This figure was the village chief, Shangguan Qingya. Light overflowed from her hands, condensing into handprints, and quickly fell on Sue-yi's body. The competition between the spirit ancient village, the tribe of tiger hunters, and the wild bear tribe had come to an end, but the result made people unable to recover from their shock for a long time. We won. At dusk, the spirit ancient village was boiling with excitement and cheering. It had been a long time since the spirit ancient village had won. You guys don't know, but Isu is too powerful. Xiongzhan couldn't even withstand one of his moves. He broke through during the battle, and the fierce red wild bear, who was in the 9th rank of the demon profound realm, was beaten into submission. The villagers who came back from the square vividly described the shocking scene in the square to the villagers. In the courtyard, the barbaric heavenly leopard was entrenched. Shangguan Qingming, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yi, and many others were waiting anxiously. This sword is so heavy. I didn't expect brother Isu to carry it on his back every day. Shangguan Rock was holding Su-yi's broken sword in his hand, and his face was full of shock. When he tried to pull out the sword in the square, he found out that this seemingly ordinary broken sword was actually a few thousand pounds heavy. If he didn't use his yuan qi, he wouldn't be able to lift it with his physical strength. However, Isu carried it on his back every day. This was too powerful. All right, let's go back. Isu is fine now. In the courtyard, Shangguan and Qingyao walked out and said to the villagers who were waiting in the courtyard. Hearing the village chief's words, the villagers felt relieved and started to leave. Grandma, how is Isu now? Shangguan Shiwei was still a little worried, and her expression was tense. Girl, you seem to be a little too concerned. Shangguan Qingyao smiled, and her eyes were smiling. Grandma. Shangguan Shiwei stared blankly for a moment before a blush crept onto her cheeks. Her rosy cheeks made her look even more alluring. With a hint of shyness, she explained, I was the one who brought him to the village, and he even helped our spirit ancient village so much. If anything happens to him, I won't be able to live in peace for the rest of my life. Silly girl, Grandma didn't say anything. Shangguan Qingyao smiled and looked at Shangguan Shiwei teasingly. She then said, Don't worry. He just broke through not long ago, and this time he broke through again. His qi and blood attacked his heart, and his yuan qi was in chaos. That's why he fainted. Shangguan Qingyao paused for a moment, and her expression became more serious. She said, Isu must have gained some benefits from the Demon Mountain. He was afraid that it would affect his foundation, so he suppressed the energy in his body. However, this time he encountered the fierce red wild bear, so he released the energy. It affected his foundation. Grandma, what should we do? He did it for the spiritual ancient village. Chapter 261. Fortunately, he has a strong body and a solid foundation. I gave him an elixir to stabilize his cultivation, so it shouldn't be a big problem. As for the future, it's up to him, Shangguan Qingyao said. Hearing this, Shangguan Shiwei's heart was finally at ease. She heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at her granddaughter, Shangguan Qingyao smiled. Her kind face was full of love. Grandma, what are you looking at? Shangguan Shiwei felt inexplicably flustered by his gaze, and for some reason, she felt a little shy. How good would it be if Isu could stay in Spirit Ancient Village forever? Shangguan Qingyao said, Grandma, he will leave soon. He said that the outside world is very big. His world shouldn't be in Spirit Ancient Village. Perhaps this place is too small for him. Shangguan Shiwei's eyes flashed with a faint sadness that was hard to grasp. Her voice was like a puddle of clear water, like a cool breeze on a summer's night. Yes, it's too small here. It can't keep him. Your father, Shangguan Qingyao's voice was unhurried. She wanted to say something, but stopped. A smile appeared on her face. She said to Shangguan Shiwei, Okay, go and arrange for people to enter the heavenly monster cave. At night, the moon was bright and the stars were dim. The moonlight was like a ribbon enveloping the mountains. We're back. We're finally back. At the entrance of the tribe of tiger hunters, a group of about 20 young men and women were crying. They looked extremely depressed. The dressing of this group of young men and women was even more eye-catching. The girls were okay, but the group of young men were all bare-chested. Only their private parts were covered by leaves and vines. Their hair was disheveled, and they looked like savages. This group of people was Tiger Cub and the others from the tribe of tiger hunters that Sue E had tied up at the foot of the mountain. They were covered in scars and looked very miserable. They had just returned to the tribe after crossing the mountains. Tiger Cub, you're finally back. Where have you been these days? Someone walked out. When he saw Tiger Cub and the others dressing, he was dumbfounded. Outside the wild bear tribe, Xiongzhan and the others had also returned. Their hair was disheveled, and their bodies were covered in green and red bruises. They looked like savages. War Bear, you guys are... Some people walked out from the wild bear tribe. When they saw War Bear and the others, they almost didn't dare to recognize them. Soon, angry shouts came from the wild bear tribe. This is too much. This is a humiliation. My mount is the Earth Aura Barbarian Bear. I'm not done with the Spirit Ancient Village. The next morning, many people from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe gathered outside Spirit Ancient Village. Humiliation. This is absolute humiliation. Taking off her clothes. This is a humiliation. The people from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe were filled with righteous indignation. They actually stripped Hu Cub, Xiong Lai, and the others naked and tied them up at the foot of the demon Azure Mountain. This was a humiliation to the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe. At the entrance of the spirit ancient village, a dense crowd had gathered. This was the only thing they knew. Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yi, and the others looked at each other. No wonder Su didn't tell them how to deal with Hu Cub, War Bear, and the others. No wonder they didn't see Xiong Lai, Hu Cub, and the others at the gathering yesterday. It turned out that these guys were stripped naked at the demon Azure Mountain. Ha ha! Then, the villagers of Spirit Ancient Village burst into laughter. They couldn't hold it in anymore. Their minds were filled with the déjà vu of War Bear, Hu Cub, and the others being stripped naked. You must give me an explanation today. Killing my mount, this is too much. My rock-splitting demon tiger, Spirit Ancient Village, must give me an explanation today. V start plus V someone from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe shouted. The rock-splitting demon tiger and the earth aura barbarian bear were their mounts, but they were killed by Isu. Didn't you eat the bear paws? Didn't you eat the tiger bones? Why didn't you come to Spirit Ancient Village after eating? Shangguan Qingming shouted domineeringly. The bear paws belonged to the earth aura barbarian bear, and the meat belonged to the rock-splitting demon tiger. Didn't you eat with relish? An old man from Spirit Ancient Village said indifferently, as if he didn't care at all. What? The bear paws belonged to the earth aura barbarian bear. The meat I ate was from the rock-splitting demon tiger. The people from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe were dumbfounded. They wanted to cry, but no tears came out. You allowed the younger generation to bring the rock-splitting demon beast to demon Azure Mountain to cause trouble, and you still have the nerve to come to Spirit Ancient Village. An old man from Spirit Ancient Village scolded. In the end, the people from the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe could only return. They were completely unreasonable. They had already eaten the bear paws and the rock-splitting demon tiger meat. What else could they do? When Sui woke up, it was already the evening of the second day. When he opened his eyes, his aura was slightly weak. However, Sui could feel a surge of medicinal energy flowing through his body. He recalled the situation before he fainted. Someone must have given him an elixir. Other than the people from Spirit Ancient Village, there couldn't be anyone else. Are you awake? A clear voice sounded. Sui saw Su Tianke. His small eyes were filled with radiance as he looked down at him. How many days have I been unconscious? Sui crawled up and felt everything in his body. It was normal. His cultivation aura had stabilized at the 8th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. His saber and sword were neatly placed by the side of the bed. They were brought back by the people from Spirit Ancient Village. It's only been a day. Such a crazy breakthrough. You got guts. Su Tianke rolled his eyes at Sui. He knew that Sui had just broken through from the 2nd level of the Yuan Profound Realm to the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm a few days ago. Now, he had broken through 2 levels in a row. This kind of breakthrough was simply unheard of. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to withstand it. There's no other way. Sui smiled bitterly. If he didn't find a way to break through, he would have lost. It didn't matter if he lost, but the future of the Spirit Ancient Village was at stake. The people from Spirit Ancient Village gave you an elixir to stabilize your cultivation. It's very beneficial for you as it has solved many problems for you. Plus, your physical body is very strong and your foundation is good. However, it hasn't completely eliminated the problems. You have to find a way to stabilize your cultivation in the future. Otherwise, it will be detrimental to your future cultivation. Su Tianke said to Sui in a serious tone. Sui nodded and looked at Su Tianke in surprise. Was this guy really so serious? All right, you've done a great service for the Spirit Ancient Village. If you ask, the Spirit Ancient Village will definitely give us the 100 fruit wine. Sui rolled his eyes at Su Tianke and left the room. He thought that Su Tianke was being serious, but it turned out that he wanted him to ask for the 100 fruit wine. Hey, why are you leaving? I'm not done yet. It's not that I'm greedy. It's that 100 fruit wine that is addictive. Chapter 262. It's great that you're fine. Grandma said that you broke through too quickly and affected your foundation. Although she gave you the elixir, you still have to be careful in the future. Outside the courtyard, Shangguan Shiwei looked at Su Yi and carefully sized him up. Seeing that Su Yi was fine, she completely relaxed. However, there was still an unbearable shock in her eyes. This guy had broken through so much in such a short period of time. It was simply abnormal. Su Yi nodded his head. He had also felt the aftereffects of breaking through too quickly. The yuan qi in his body was not as pure as before. He could not allow himself to break through like this again. As expected, the medicinal effects in his body came from the village chief's elixir. I was worried that you would wake up at some point. Fortunately, you woke up in time. Tomorrow morning, we will go to the Heavenly Monster Cave. This is also the benefit that I promised you. Shangguan Shiwei looked at Su Yi and said, Heavenly Monster Cave. Su Yi's eyes moved slightly. It seemed like the place that had great benefits for soul power was in the Heavenly Monster Cave. The Heavenly Monster Cave is the common forbidden area of the Spirit Ancient Village, Wild Bear Tribe, and Tribe of Tiger Hunters. It's a competition of the younger generation held once every 10 years to decide who will control the Heavenly Monster Cave for the next 10 years. Shangguan Shiwei told Su Yi some of the situation. However, she did not know much. She only knew that the Heavenly Monster Cave was the common forbidden area of the Spirit Ancient Village, Tribe of Tiger Hunters, and Wild Bear Tribe. There were benefits in the forbidden area. Not only could one achieve twice the results with half the effort, but it could also refine one's soul. Those who cultivated in the Heavenly Monster Cave would go further than their peers in the future. Their strength would also be much stronger. However, there were restrictions in the Heavenly Monster Cave. Not too many people could enter, and the space was limited. Therefore, the Spirit Ancient Village, Tribe of Tiger Hunters, and Wild Bear Tribe would hold such a competition once every 10 years. We're leaving tomorrow. Su Yi's eyes were filled with anticipation. He had come to the Spirit Ancient Village because Shangguan Shiwei had said that as long as he could borrow the barbaric Heavenly Leopard, he would have a chance to increase his strength. More importantly, he would be able to obtain a type of spiritual energy that could be used to refine his spiritual energy. Tempering his soul force was of utmost importance to Su Yi. It had to be known that whether it was an alchemist, artificer, or soul controller, it was extremely difficult for them to strengthen their soul force, much less an ordinary martial artist. Soul power was too difficult to increase. For Su Yi, refining his soul was of utmost importance. Obtaining a type of spiritual energy to refine his soul was undoubtedly a prerequisite for the heavenly origin demonic soul. Su Yi had already successfully cultivated the first level of the mixed Yuan demon body, the diamond body, but the second level of the demon soul was still stagnant. Using the souls of all living beings to strengthen one's own soul. This was the cultivation method of the heaven origin demon soul. The heavenly origin demon soul absorbed all kinds of souls and refined them with the origin supreme art, strengthening and tempering the soul. Su Yi was very clear that with his current strength, it was far from enough to absorb other people's souls. Therefore, when Shangguan Shiwei said that he could refine his soul force, Su Yi did not hesitate to take the risk and enter this place, thinking that he might be able to use the benefits to cultivate his heavenly origin demon soul. After the previous cultivation of the heavenly origin demon soul, Su Yi could clearly feel that it would be of great benefit to him as a soul controller. The two could complement each other. Heavenly Monster Cave, what is that place? I want to go too. Su Tianke had been following beside Su Yi, his small eyes darting around. He also wanted to enter the Heavenly Monster Cave. I'm afraid that's not possible. There are only 8 spots in total. We can't take out an extra spot. Moreover, the ancestral rules state that barbaric beasts are not allowed to enter the Heavenly Monster Cave. Shangguan Shiwei smiled bitterly. The Heavenly Monster Cave was not only a forbidden area for the Spirit Ancient Village, it was also a forbidden area for the Tribe of Tiger Hunters and the Wild Bear Tribe. Putting aside the fact that the Spirit Ancient Village could not take out an extra spot, even if the Spirit Ancient Village could let Su Tianke in The tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe would not agree, because the ancestral rules clearly stated that barbaric beasts were not allowed to enter the heavenly monster cave. Why can't barbaric beasts enter? Moreover, I'm not a barbaric beast. I'm... Su Tianke wanted to say something, but stopped. He raised his head and flapped his featherless wings in protest. He was unconvinced. This is discrimination, absolute discrimination. Go play on the side, don't cause trouble. Su Yi rolled his eyes at Su Tianke, then asked Shangguan Shiwei, how long do we have to stay in the heavenly monster cave? Half a year. We can only stay for half a year. It said that we can't stay in the heavenly monster cave for too long. Our souls won't be able to withstand it. At that time, it will only be harmful. Shangguan Shiwei smiled and told Su Yi some things. Although the heavenly monster cave could increase one's strength, more importantly, it could refine one's soul energy. However, if one stayed for more than half a year, it would only be harmful. There would be an invisible force that the soul would not be able to withstand. There's such a thing. Su Yi was astonished and curious. It seemed that the heavenly monster cave was a forbidden area for the spirit ancient village, the tribe of tiger hunters, and the wild bear tribe. It had its own wonders. Have a good rest. We'll set off early tomorrow morning. Shangguan Shiwei left. Outside the courtyard, the sky had already darkened. The moon was bright and the stars were dim. Grandfather, are you okay? I'll go back as soon as possible to treat your injuries. I won't let go of the person who hurt you. Looking at the white moon, Su Yi muttered in his heart. During this period of tempering from the barbarian demon forest to the barbarian demon Grand Canyon, not only did it improve his physical body and strength, it also imperceptibly tempered his mind. Everything he saw and experienced along the way made Su Yi understand that there was no such thing as logic in this world. The strong were respected, and the weak were prey to the strong. $dollars first. Cent if you were weak, you would be meat on someone's chopping board. Strength was the truth. Strengthen, I have to become strong. Su Yi clenched his fist slightly. His eyes flickered in the moonlight, emitting a dazzling light. Since he came from his previous life, he definitely could not be indifferent in this life. Even if he could not leave his name in history, he had to be infamous for 10,000 years. It was better than living a mediocre life. After all, he had earned this life for nothing. Su Yi knew very well that if he wanted to become strong, he would have to rely on his identity as a martial artist and a soul controller. One day, when he reached the legendary level of cultivation, he would be able to set foot on the sacred mountain. You seem to have something on your mind? Su Tianke looked up and leaned against the wall. He placed his featherless wings behind his back and looked at Su Yi indifferently. Do you know about the sacred mountain? Su Yi glanced sideways and asked Su Tianke. The sacred mountain? I don't know. Su Tianke shook his head. Then it's fine. I'm going to the heavenly demon cave for half a year. Don't cause trouble in the spirit ancient village. If you get roasted and eaten, I won't be able to save you. Su Yi was a little worried about Su Tianke. This guy could not stay idle, and he was afraid that he would cause trouble. Chapter 263. Peacock. Su Yi glanced at Su Tianke. The suspicion in his eyes was obvious as he left. What do you mean? You still don't believe me? Su Tianke glared at Su Yi's back. He was angry, but there was nothing he could do. In the room, Su Yi sat cross-legged and adjusted his breathing to stabilize his cultivation. Su Yi couldn't help but feel happy about the speed of his recent breakthroughs. However, the speed of his breakthroughs was too fast. He was worried that his foundation would be unstable. Otherwise, those large sects would have an inexhaustible supply of cultivation resources. Their disciples could use treasures to increase their cultivation and speed up their breakthroughs. Not long after, on the bed, Su Yi was enveloped in light. He looked like he was bathing in divine splendor. The night was silent. The next morning, when the darkness before dawn had just passed, the spirit ancient village was already bustling with activity. In the square of the spirit ancient village, there were flying mounts waiting for orders. Shangguan Shiwei, Shangguan Qinfeng, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yi, and the others were standing in the square. An elder was whispering something to them. It was obvious that they were quite nervous and expectant. After entering the heavenly monster cave, you will walk to the main hall. That is the monster temple. There will be 8 directions. The 8 of you will find a place to cultivate. After half a year, someone will replace you. Looking at V, Section X, Chapter N, Su Yi was woken up by Shangwan Shiwei early in the morning. He changed into a new robe and was listening to Elder Shangwan Qingming's instructions. Su Yi nodded. He didn't dare to be careless and listened carefully. Child, how are your injuries? Are they better? Brother Su Yi, you are so powerful. However, many villagers came up and surrounded Su Yi with concern in their eyes. They didn't go to the square that day to see it with their own eyes, but they had all heard of Su Yi's deeds, especially when they heard that Su Yi was severely injured and covered in blood, but he still got up time and time again to fight for the spirit ancient village. This made some women and children worried. Now that he saw Su Yi, he couldn't help but want to check on Su Yi's injuries. I'm fine now. My injuries have healed. Su Yi smiled bitterly. He even spun around a few times in front of everyone to prove that he had recovered. His injuries had long since healed after refining the monster core. Child, you're the benefactor of Spirit Ancient Village. Why don't you stay here from now on? The people of Spirit Ancient Village wanted to urge Su Yi to stay. They had already seen Su Yi on the spot. I haven't left yet. Su Yi bitterly smiled. His heart was filled with warmth. These villagers were all so simple and honest. Su. Suddenly, Shangwan Qinfeng walked up to Su Yi's side. He was still wearing a clean white robe, which made him look extraordinarily handsome. He immediately knelt down on one knee towards Su Yi. What are you doing? Su Yi pulled Shangwan Qinfeng back with one hand. Everyone was surprised, but there were also some people who seemed to understand something. For example, Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Xiao, and the others looked at each other in dismay. They didn't say anything. I've said before, as long as you win, I, Shangwan Qinfeng, will follow you for the rest of my life. Shangwan Qinfeng was very serious. He naturally had to fulfill his promise. I've accepted vitality stones to do this. I didn't make a bad deal. Moreover, I'm going to enter the heavenly monster cave today. This is what I should do. Su Yi knew what Shangwan Qinfeng was referring to. He pulled Shangwan Qinfeng and said with a smile, You're Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Yi, Shangwan Yu's brother. You should be a few years older than me. If you don't mind, I should call you Brother Qinfeng. This, Shangwan Qinfeng was stunned. He stared blankly at Su Yi. He secretly bit his lips, and a trace of light flashed across his eyes. He nodded seriously and said, Thank you. Brother Qinfeng, we're all on the same side. There's no need to be so polite. Brother Su is now a member of our Spirit Ancient Village. There's no need to be so polite. Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Yi, and the others saw this and immediately walked up with a smile. All right, get ready to depart. There will be people outside the heavenly monster cave waiting for you. They will tell you how to enter. An old man from a Spirit Ancient Village looked at Su Yi with admiration in his eyes. He then looked at the sky and said to the group of young people who were about to depart, Let's go. Shangwan Shiwei waved her sleeves, and a strand of vitality surged under her feet. Her graceful figure directly jumped onto the back of a flying demonic beast that was waiting for them. Swoosh, swoosh. Then several figures flew out and landed on the back of the flying demonic beast. It had been a long time since the Spirit Ancient Village had one. Therefore, for several decades, no one had entered the heavenly monster cave to temper themselves. This time, the first batch of people to enter was naturally arranged to be the best of the younger generation. With Su Yi's quota, no one in the Spirit Ancient Village had any objections. As for the remaining 7 quotas, Shangwan Qinfeng and Shangwan Shiwei were naturally among them. In addition, there was Shangwan Rock, Shangwan Yu, Shangwan Yi, Shangwan Xiao, and another youth that Su Yi was familiar with. In the back mountain of the Spirit Ancient Village, under the first rays of the morning sun, several old figures appeared on the mountain peak. The first of these old figures was the village chief, Shangwan Shiwei, and the elder of the Spirit Ancient Village's disciplinary committee. They're gone. This time, I wonder if there will be hope. Watching the flying demonic beast soar into the sky with 8 young men and women on its back, an old man narrowed his eyes, emitting a faint light. It's been so long. Maybe it's just a legend. Otherwise, why hasn't anyone succeeded in so many years? Another old elder shook his head, sighed, and said softly, "Our ancestors said that we can't leave this place. Otherwise, we'll be exterminated by our enemies. If there's a descendant who can obtain the greatest benefit from the heavenly monster cave, we'll be able to reappear in this world. But why hasn't anyone been able to obtain it after so many years? No one even knows what the greatest benefit is. If there's really an enemy, it's been so many years. I'm afraid that the enemy has already died." The first old man to speak said, "If it's just a legend, then we'll have to stay here for generations." The old man sighed. "Let's leave it to fate," Shangguan Qingya said faintly. Then, the light around her fluctuated faintly, and her figure disappeared from the mountain peak. On the back of the flying demonic beast, the 8 people were looking forward to it nervously. "I heard that after coming out of the heavenly monster cave, everyone in the demon profound realm will be able to raise their cultivation by 3 to 4 levels. I'm really looking forward to it." Shangguan Rock was a little excited. He heard from his father that as long as they came out of the heavenly monster cave, everyone would be able to raise their cultivation by 3 to 4 levels. In half a year, raising their cultivation by 3 to 4 levels was absolutely terrifying. Chapter 264. Hearing this, Su Yi didn't have any special expectations. Recently, he had been breaking through continuously. Su Yi was worried that his foundation was unstable. What he was most afraid of was breaking through again in a short period of time. His greatest desire for the heavenly monster cave was to refine his soul. I heard that the greatest benefit of the heavenly monster cave is to refine one's soul power, especially for alchemists and blacksmiths. Shangguan Yi said with some yearning in his eyes. It was a pity that he couldn't become an alchemist or blacksmith. It's a pity that none of us can become an alchemist or blacksmith. Shangguan Xiu felt a little regretful. In their generation, there were no alchemists or weapon refiners in the spirit ancient village. If one wanted to become an alchemist or a weapon refiner, there were too many conditions, and these conditions were very harsh for them. Alchemists and blacksmiths are too rare. Shangguan Yu said. As far as he knew, in the entire spirit ancient village, the tribe of tiger hunters and the wild bear tribe, there were only a few alchemists and blacksmiths. Any one of them was a treasure. "Isu, are there many alchemists and blacksmiths outside?" Suddenly, Shangguan Shui looked at Su Yi and asked. "Alchemists and blacksmiths have a very high status. There are very few people who can become alchemists and blacksmiths." Su Yi shook his head. Alchemists and blacksmiths were also very rare outside. "That's true. Alchemists and blacksmiths are too rare. I heard that there's a kind of soul controller that is even more difficult to become. Is there such a soul controller in the outside world?" Shangguan Xiu asked Su Yi. Soul controller seemed to be a legendary existence in the spirit ancient village, the wild bear tribe, and the tribe of tiger hunters. At least, she hadn't seen it before. Soul controller? It seems that there aren't many of them. It should be rarer than alchemists and blacksmiths. Su Yi smiled faintly. He couldn't become an alchemist or blacksmith, but the identity of a soul controller was enough. It was rarer than alchemists and blacksmiths. In terms of pure battle strength, soul controller should be stronger than blacksmiths and alchemists. If only we had an alchemist and an artifact refiner among us, the benefits would be even greater. Shangguan Rock said with some regret. Alchemists and refiners had even harsher requirements when it came to soul force. If one could strengthen their soul force, the benefits would be the greatest. Unfortunately, only 8 people can enter the heavenly Yao Grotto at a time. It would be great if more could enter. Shangguan Yi sighed. In half a year's time, only 8 of them would be able to enter the heavenly monster cave. Although the spirit ancient village had won this time, they only had 10 years to enter the heavenly monster cave. Rumor has it that the heavenly monster cave was left behind by the common ancestor of the spirit ancient village, the wild bear tribe, and the tribe of tiger hunters. The heavenly monster cave also contains the greatest benefits, but unfortunately, no one has been able to obtain them. Shangguan Qinfeng's figure stood straight. His white robe fluttered in the wind as he sat on his flying mount. He squinted his eyes. He had heard some old people talking about some secrets. The heavenly monster cave had the greatest benefits, but unfortunately, no one had ever been able to obtain them. The greatest benefit? Hearing this, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yi, and the rest shuddered. This was the first time they had heard of such a thing. QN knew, I knew $max, caret P faster J then, the greatest benefit might be a legend, or it might be waiting for the fated one. Shangguan Chunfeng said. He wanted to obtain the greatest benefit from the heavenly monster cave. However, he was clear that in order to obtain the greatest benefit, he could only wait for the fated one. The greatest benefit, He did not think too much about it. In this half a year's time, he only hoped that he could improve his soul power. Far in the distance, there was a towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. The peak of the mountain was shrouded in mist. We're here. Shangguan Shiwei looked at the towering mountain before her and said, Is it there? He raised his head and looked over. He was surprised. The towering mountain was not far away from the square where he had competed 2 days ago. Back then, he had sensed an extremely unique aura from the mountain peak. However, that aura was fleeting. Soon, the flying beast landed at the foot of the towering mountain. Screech! As though it had sensed some kind of aura, the flying beast looked at the towering mountain and trembled slightly. It seemed to be afraid. After everyone landed on the flying beast, the beast spread its wings and flew away in fear. The towering mountain was so tall that it pierced through the clouds. It was incomparably huge. It was like an ancient beast that was pressing down. It was so tall that it looked like it was going to collapse. The mountain was lush and green, and the forest was like the waves of the sea. It was majestic and magnificent, and it gave off an ancient aura. What a strange aura! Standing at the foot of the mountain, He once again felt an extremely unique aura from the towering mountain. This feeling was strange, but it disappeared in an instant. Then, it returned to normal, and there was nothing strange about it. A stone path that was as wide as 2 people meandered from the foot of the mountain all the way to the middle of the mountain. Looking up, one could faintly see a cave appearing in the middle of the mountain. We have to go up. The Heavenly Monster Cave is the common forbidden area of the Spirit Ancient Village, the tribe of tiger hunters, and the wild bear tribe. No one can blaspheme it. Shangguan Shiwei said to Sui. The flying beast could only land at the foot of the mountain. If they wanted to go up, they had to walk up. As everyone went up the mountain, they all became serious and reverent. This was the Heavenly Monster Cave, the forbidden area of the Spirit Ancient Village. It did not tolerate the slightest disrespect. He followed everyone up the mountain. For some reason, he felt an extremely strange aura from time to time. It was just that he could not pinpoint it. Although the stone path did not go up the mountain, it was still very winding. It led to the middle of the mountain. It was estimated to be more than 10,000 feet long, and it was also quite steep. Everyone was a cultivator, so this stone path was nothing to them. After a full 2 hours, everyone reached the middle of the mountain. A spacious, small square stretched out. On the middle of the mountain, there was a huge stone cave that was about 20 feet high. On both sides of the stone cave, there were carvings of a huge stone tiger and a stone bear. They were fierce, vivid and lifelike. The carvings were thick and heavy, as if they were bearing the vicissitudes of thousands of years. The stone door of the stone cave was tightly shut, and there were some mysterious Sanskrit talisman engravings on it. On the stone cave, the 3 words Heavenly Monster Cave were written in flamboyant calligraphy. If one looked carefully, it was like the light of a sword, making one's heart turn cold. Boom! He stepped onto the small square. That strange aura came clearly again, making his heart tremble for no reason. People of the Spirit Ancient Village. This kind of voice came faintly. Shangguan Qinfeng, Shangguan Shiwei, and the others were in front of the heavenly monster cave with a respectful expression. When they heard this voice, they immediately looked up. On one side of the heavenly monster cave, 8 figures appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 265. Beside the young man, there were 7 young men and women. They were probably slightly younger than Shangwan Chunfeng and Shangwan Rock. All of them looked to be around 16 or 17 years old. All of them had an extraordinary aura and temperament. Hu Ming, Shangwan Chunfeng, Shangwan Shiwei, and Shangwan Rock's expressions changed slightly when they saw the 8 young men and women, especially the skinny, tall, and handsome young man who seemed to be around 21 or 22 years old. Su Yi's gaze landed on the 8 young men and women. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the skinny, tall, and skinny young man. He could feel that the aura coming from the skinny, tall, and skinny young man was the strongest. Looks like things aren't looking good, Shangwan Xiu said, softly beside Su Yi. Her eyes were filled with helplessness. What's going on? Su Yi looked at the 8 young men and asked Shangwan Xiu in a low voice. They are from the tribe of tiger hunters. Our spirit ancient village has won this time and is here to take over the heavenly monster cave. However, I'm afraid that the tribe of tiger hunters won't hand it over to us so easily. They will make us suffer. Shangwan Xiu's lips curled into a bitter smile. She was already prepared to suffer. Brother Yi Su, that fella is Hu Ming. He's only a few years older than Hu Qi, however. In terms of seniority, he's Hu Qi's uncle. He's older than us, and his seniority is also higher. It's said that he entered the heavenly monster cave half a year ago and didn't participate in this competition. It's rumored that Hu Ming was already at the peak of the 8th level of the profound origin realm half a year ago. He should be even stronger now and might have already stepped into the origin spirit realm. Hearing the conversation between Su Yi and Shangwan Xiu, Shangwan Rock lowered his head and whispered in Su Yi's ear, "They don't come with good intentions. Since our spirit ancient village has won this time, this fellow won't let us off so easily. I'm afraid that we'll have to suffer. However, they won't dare to go overboard." Shangwan Yan's face turned bitter as soon as he finished speaking. Shangwan Rock knew that Su Yi was very strong. Last time, he was able to defeat the fierce red wild bear, who was at the peak of the 9th level of the demon profound realm. But this Hu Ming in front of him had most likely already stepped into the essence spirit realm after spending half a year in the heavenly demon grotto. The origin spirit realm and the origin profound realm, these were 2 different realms. Who could surpass them? Does no one care? Su Yi's gaze swept across the 8 members of the tribe of tiger hunters. Hu Ming's aura was the strongest, and the aura that invisibly emanated from him made Su Yi feel that he was most likely at the origin spirit stage. However, the other 7 members of the tribe of tiger hunters were much weaker. On average, they were at the 5th or 6th level of the origin profound realm. Overall, they were much stronger than Shangwan Rock and Shangwan Xiu. This is an unwritten rule. 10 years later, if the hunting tiger tribe and the barbarian bear tribe are victorious, and someone comes to the heavenly monster cave, at that time, I'm afraid that the people from our spirit ancient village will also show our strength. First Wave Shangwan Rock bitterly smiled. This was an unwritten rule, so the elders of each clan would not say anything. Every generation had been like this. This was called showing their strength, and they would have to suffer a little. But fortunately, everyone knew, so they would not go overboard. As Su Yi was sizing them up, the young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters were also sizing up Shangwan Chunfeng, Shangwan Shiwei, and the others. However, the expressions on their faces were not good, and there was not much goodwill in their gazes. To the young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters, they naturally hoped that the tribe of tiger hunters could continue to win. But seeing that the people of Spirit Ancient Village had come, it meant that the tribe of tiger hunters had already lost in this once-in-a-decade competition. One could imagine how they felt. Shangwan Chunfeng, Shangwan Shiwei. The leader, Hu Ming, swept his gaze across the people of Spirit Ancient Village, but in the end, he only paid attention to Shangwan Chunfeng and Shangwan Shiwei. As for Shangwan Yu, Shangwan Rock and the others did not seem to pay much attention to him. let alone put him in their eyes. This time, Spirit Ancient Village has won. We have come to enter the Heavenly Monster Cave. Shangguan Chunfeng looked at Hu Mo. His expression did not change, and his voice was tall and straight. Is that so? It seems that no one from Spirit Ancient Village has come to the Heavenly Monster Cave for 30 years. I didn't expect that they would actually win this time. What a surprise. Hu Ming indifferently looked at Shangguan Chunfeng, paying quite a bit of attention. In his heart, he reckoned that the reason why Spirit Ancient Village could win this time was naturally because of Shangguan Chunfeng. It seemed that Hu Qi and Xiong Zhan of the Wild Bear Tribe had both lost to Shangguan Chunfeng. If you want to enter the Heavenly Monster Cave, then let's see if you have the strength. Don't say that we are bullying you people who have never been to the Heavenly Monster Cave. Let's fight one by one. As long as you can win one of the 8 rounds, it will be your win. Beside Hu Ming, a 16 or 17-year-old youth glanced at Shangguan Xiao, Shangguan Rock, and the others with disdain. That's right. As long as you can win one round, it will be your win and you can enter the Heavenly Monster Cave. The remaining people of the tribe of tiger hunters suddenly laughed. Their age was slightly younger than Shangguan Rock and the others, but at this moment, none of them put Shangguan Rock and the others in their eyes. However, these young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters were a little afraid of Shangguan Chunfeng. However, they did not fear him too much. They knew that, with Hu Ming present, it was enough to trample on Shangguan Chunfeng. All right, you have 8 people, and we also have 8 people. As long as you can win one round, you can obtain the key to open the Heavenly Monster Cave. Otherwise, you don't have the qualifications to enter the Heavenly Monster Cave. You should go back. An ancient key appeared in his hand as he spoke to the 8 people from the Spirit Ancient Village in an indifferent tone. Looking at the key in Hu Qiu's hand, Shangguan Chunfeng, Shangguan Shiwei, and the others looked even more gloomy. Without the key, they couldn't enter the Heavenly Monster Cave. Which one of you will go first? Stop dilly-dallying. Don't tell me that the people of Spirit Ancient Village don't even have the courage to go up. A youth sneered as he glanced at the people of Spirit Ancient Village with disdain. Hu Qiu, you're just a loser. What are you being arrogant for? Shangguan Rock stared at the youth who spoke and shouted. Back then, Hu Qiu was once a loser of his, but now, he was being so arrogant. Looking at Shangguan Yin, the expression of the young man called Hu Qiu immediately became a little ugly. Back then, he had indeed been defeated by Shangguan Yin. Moreover, he had been thoroughly defeated. Shangguan Rock, if you have the ability, let's fight now. Do you dare? Immediately after, Hu Qiu's face sank. Things were different now. He had been in the Heavenly Monster Cave for half a year, and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He was now at the 6th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. How could the Shangguan Rock be a match for him? This was the perfect opportunity for him to take revenge. Let's fight. Do you think I am afraid of you? I want to see how much progress you have made in the Heavenly Monster Cave. Shangguan Rock shouted as he stepped forward and unsheathed his sword. Although Shangguan Rock could feel that Hu Qiu's cultivation had increased by a lot in the Heavenly Monster Cave, he couldn't escape from this situation. It was the perfect opportunity for him to test how much progress Hu Qiu had made in the Heavenly Monster Cave. Shangguan Chunfeng and Shangguan Shiwei's eyes flickered. They wanted to say something, but hesitated. They knew that Shangguan Rock might not be a match for Hu Qiu, but they had no choice. They couldn't avoid today's matter. Hi, you have some guts. Let this be the first match. I will deal with Shangguan Rock. Chapter 266. All right, you can have this one. Leave the rest to us. The rest of the young men and women laughed, completely ignoring Shangguan Rock. In the past half a year in the Heavenly Monster Cave, they all knew how much progress they had made. After coming out, they would be able to deal with Shangguan Rock and the others. Hu Ming did not speak. He looked at the people of Spirit Ancient Village indifferently. His target was only Shangguan Chunfeng. As for the others, Hu Qiu and the others would be able to deal with them with an overwhelming advantage. Shangguan Rock had no way out. He secretly gritted his teeth and unsheathed his sword, ready to fight. Wait. At this moment, Su Yi spoke, stepped out slowly, smiled at Shangguan Rock, and said, let me fight in the first round. W1 hearing Su Yi's words, Shangguan Yu, Shangguan Yi, Shangguan Shi Wei, and even Shangguan Qinfeng's eyes flashed with a light that did not leave a trace. I'm the weakest, so let me fight in the first round. Shangguan Rock wanted to say something, but Su Yi walked forward and patted Shangguan Rock's shoulder. He blinked his eyes and secretly signaled with his eyes, interrupting him. All right, I'll leave it to you. Seeing this, Shangguan Rock smiled and immediately took a few steps back. A trace of a smile flashed in his eyes as he waited to watch a good show. This, Shangguan Yu, Shangguan Yi, Shangguan Xiao, and the others looked at each other, and a faint smile appeared in their eyes. Who are you? I've never seen you before. Seeing Su Yi going on stage, Hu Qiu's eyes were a little unhappy. He knew the people of Spirit Ancient Village quite well, but he had never seen the young man in front of him. The other young men of the tribe of tiger hunters looked at Su Yi curiously. He had a strange appearance and carried a sword on his back. He seemed to be younger than them, but he was actually going to take the initiative to fight. Originally, Hu Ming did not pay special attention to Su Yi. Now that Su Yi walked out, he looked at him curiously. However, looking at Su Yi's age, Hu Ming did not pay much attention to it. You won't know who I am even if I tell you. You'll know after I defeat you. Su Yi raised the corner of his mouth at Tiger Hill, as if he didn't care at all, revealing a kind of arrogance and contempt. The curve of his mouth and his well-defined face outlined a touch of evil arrogance. Defeat me? Ha ha! Hu Qiu was startled, then burst out laughing. Are the people of the Spirit Ancient Village so arrogant now? Laugh all you want. You'll be crying later. Listening to Hu Qiu's laughter, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yu, and the others secretly laughed. They couldn't help but sympathize with Hu Qiu. After a while, Tiger Hill wouldn't be able to laugh anymore. You're so long-winded. Do you want to fight? If you don't have the guts to fight, all of you can come at me together. Don't waste my time. Su Yi glanced at Tiger Hill indifferently, then slowly glanced at the 8 people of the tribe of tiger hunters. His eyes shifted slightly. Then he said, How about this? Hand over the key to the heavenly monster cave and all of your interspatial bags, and I'll let you go down the mountain. Otherwise, I'll throw you down one by one. After listening to Su Yi's words, the whole place fell into silence for a moment. Everyone thought that they had heard wrongly, including the people of the Spirit Ancient Village. When they heard Su Yi's words, they couldn't help but tremble. Originally, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Qinfeng, and the others thought that Su Yi was the first to take them by surprise. When the time came, he would be able to get the key after winning the first round. However, they didn't expect that Su Yi didn't seem to have that intention. Instead, he was coveting the interspatial bags of Tiger Hill's group. Recalling how Su Yi forcefully robbed Xiong Zhan, Hu Mo, and Hu Qi's group of interspatial bags, Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Shi Wei, and the others were stunned. They felt that Su Yi wasn't joking. Kids, say that again. Amidst the astonishment, Tiger Hill stared curiously at Su Yi and asked. He thought that he had heard wrongly. Hand over the key to the heavenly monster cave and all of your interspatial bags. Otherwise, I'll throw you down one by one. Do you understand? Su Yi pointed at the steep stone path that led down the mountain not far away from him and said seriously, Good, you're crazy enough. When Su Yi finished speaking, Tiger Hill's face gradually darkened. He originally thought that after coming out of the heavenly monster cave, he would be able to deal with Shangguan Rock and the others. He was planning to avenge his previous humiliation. Who knew that a kid who didn't take him seriously would appear? One could imagine how he felt. Boom! When these words were spoken, Tiger Hill's face suddenly turned cold. He stomped his foot on the ground, and his vitality surged. He raised his hand and clenched it into a fist. With a strong wind, his figure rushed out and blasted towards Su Yi. His speed was very fast. Tiger Hill didn't hold back and used almost all of his strength. He wanted to show his strength and teach this kid a lesson. However, at that moment, Su Yi didn't seem to be in a hurry when facing Tiger Hill's attack. His expression didn't even change. You're looking for a beating. With a cold voice and a strong punch, Tiger Hill appeared in front of Su Yi. His fist was covered in vitality. It was red in color and carried a blazing and sharp aura. It almost reached Su Yi's chest. "You're overestimating yourself." Tiger Hill's attack caused the group of people from the hunting tiger tribe to secretly sneer. Looking at the imposing manner, that young man was completely overestimating himself and being arrogant. Only the people of Spirit Ancient Village knew in their hearts. The current Su Yi, except for Hu Ming, was indeed not a match for the people of the tribe of tiger hunters. In an instant, under the different emotions and thoughts of both sides, Tiger Hill's fist directly arrived in front of Su Yi's chest like lightning. Just when the tribe of tiger hunters thought that Su Yi was going to be blown away by the punch, they were shocked to see that Tiger Hill's fist stopped in front of Su Yi. It suddenly stiffened and couldn't move an inch further. Dozens of gazes suddenly changed and suddenly looked at Tiger Hill's fist, trying to find a reason. Then they saw that in front of Tiger Hill's fist, there was a palm gently blocking Tiger Hill's fist. The 5 fingers slowly curled and covered Tiger Hill's fist. Tiger Hill's punch was almost an all-out attack, but at that moment, it froze and was forcefully blocked. What's going on? The people of the tribe of tiger hunters, including Hu Ming, had a drastic change in expression at that moment. Chapter 267. At this moment, Tiger Chiu, who was involved, had a drastic change in expression. In the blink of an eye, Su Yi looked at Tiger Chiu, whose expression suddenly changed. The smile on his face became even wider as he said indifferently, "Come, give me the space bag." "What are you doing?" Only then did Tiger Chiu realize that the other hand of the terrifying young man in front of him had already appeared in his arms. He immediately shouted in shock and stretched out his other hand. However, it was too late. Su Yi bent down slightly and stood up from the ground. With a shake of his arms, a ferocious force surged out from both of his hands. Before Tiger Chiu could react, his body was lifted up. At the same time, a huge force swept into his body, causing him to lose his center of gravity. A sharp sound of wind breaking rang in his ears, and he felt as if he was suddenly flying. Swish! The sound of wind breaking resounded, and everyone saw an unbelievable scene. Tiger Chiu's body was sent flying, and like a kite with a broken string, he fell down the mountain. Bang, bang, bang. After a few breaths of time, the sound of rolling and screaming came from the stone path below, and the sound was getting further and further away. Su Yi's figure moved slightly, and a space bag appeared in his hand. He kept it into his arms without any hesitation. His expression was calm, as if everything was natural. Tiger Chiu was thrown down the mountain. Shangguan Rock, Shangguan Yu, Shangguan Yi, Shangguan Chinfeng, and the others all knew that Tiger Chiu was not a match for Yi Su, but they never thought that Tiger Chiu would be defeated in such a way. Yi Su really threw Tiger Chiu down the mountain. As for the people of the tribe of tiger hunters, they were all dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with shock, and it was a stark contrast to their previous disdain and arrogance. Next, Su Yi's figure directly rushed out, as if it had turned into an afterimage, and directly rushed to the front of the tribe of tiger hunters who was the closest to him. With Su Yi's current cultivation level and the speed of the rising Yao's 100 transformation steps, how could this young man have the time to dodge? The young man only saw a blur in front of his eyes, and the face that shocked him had already appeared in front of him. PFFF, bang bang. Before he could react, the young man felt his clothes tighten, and then a huge force rushed into his chest. His whole body flew up into the air. Blood spurted out, and the sound of tumbling could be heard from the bottom of the mountain. Hu pow! Some of the young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters cried out in alarm, but it was too late for them to rescue him. Moreover, they were still in shock. "Brat, you've really hidden yourself well. You're courting death." A furious roar resounded, and a powerful gust of wind instantly appeared behind Su Yi. A silhouette moved like lightning, and its speed was not inferior to Su Yi's. At this moment, Su Yi's expression darkened, and a wisp of crimson red quietly appeared in his eyes. Swish! Without turning his head, the origin chi beneath Su Yi's feet formed a vortex. His figure was like an illusion as he moved forward in an unbelievable arc. Swish, the sharp and powerful gust of wind brushed past his ear. A few strands of hair beside Su Yi's ear were shaken off, and a slight pain could be felt on his cheek. Su Yi turned around and kept another space bag into his bosom. His expression turned serious, but the corners of his mouth still curled up slightly as he looked at the extraordinary youth in front of him. The one who had attacked in an instant was Hu Ming from the tribe of tiger hunters. Hu Ming looked at the young man in front of him, who had actually dodged his attack, and the shock in his eyes became even more intense. He stared at Su Yi and said, "The spirit ancient village has never appeared before, right? It seems that they have hidden themselves quite well. Xiongzhan and Hu Qi were defeated by you, and not by Shangwan Chenfeng, right?" At this moment, Hu Ming finally understood that he had been staring at the wrong person from the very beginning. Originally, he thought that the spirit ancient village would win. According to his understanding, the strongest of the tribe of tiger hunters, Hu Qi, and the strongest of the wild bear tribe, Xiongzhan, were naturally defeated by Shangwan Chenfeng. Hu Ming's aura was secretly strange. From his understanding, Shangwan Chenfeng seemed to have some difficulty defeating Hu Qi and Xiongzhan. But from the looks of it, the spirit ancient village had been hiding it all this time. In order to win this time, they had sealed off the news of the strongest youth in front of him. That was why Xiongzhan and Hu Qi were defeated. Looking at the strength of the youth just now, he was indeed powerful. Hu Ming estimated that the youth in front of him should be above Hu Qi and Xiongzhan. "Uncle Hu Ming, take care of that brat." The remaining 5 young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters finally regained their senses. Seeing that Hu Ming had already made his move, they immediately shouted loudly. Their hearts still had lingering fear, and they only hoped that Hu Ming could take revenge and take care of that brat. "You got it right." Su Yi looked at Hu Ming and ignored the cries of the other young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters. His expression immediately returned to normal. He smiled and said, "I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the key to the heavenly monster cave and the space bag on you, and you can go down the mountain. You are indeed arrogant, but you have chosen the wrong person today." There was no room for negotiation at all. Hu Ming did not say anything else. This brat threw the 2 of them down the mountain in front of him. If he did not take care of this brat today, you would not have the face to go down the mountain. FT2. F*CK. Moreover, at this moment, Hu Ming had 100 reasons to not let this brat go today. Hu Ming really did not believe that with his current cultivation and strength, he could not deal with this brat in front of him. Although this brat seemed to have extraordinary strength, he was still able to defeat Lin Fan. Boom! Yuan Qi surged on his body. When his voice fell, Hu Ming stomped his foot on the ground. Around his foot, the hard stone ground continuously cracked. Small cracks spread out from the soles of his feet. His figure was also like lightning, directly pouncing towards Su Yi. Shangwan Chenfeng, Shangwan Shiwei, and the others secretly changed their expressions. They knew that the others were not Yi Su's match, but Hu Ming was different. Hu Ming, this was an existence that was most likely at the origin spirit realm. Chila, a sharp sound of wind breaking resounded. As Hu Ming's figure pounced, 2 streaks of light, one in front and one behind, immediately swept out. Hu Ming did not dare to be careless. This brat in front of him seemed to have something extraordinary and strange. He had used a movement technique and dodged to the side from the 2 streaks of light. However, his figure that had just pounced out was forcefully stopped. Ka, ka. The ground cracked and the stone slabs trembled. The 2 streaks of light landed and fell into the ground. They were thrown out by Su Yi. It was the saber and sword on his back. Chapter 268. Brother Isu is going to go all out. Seeing that Isu had put down the sword and blade on his back, Shangwan Rock and the others' expressions turned serious. They knew that the broken sword on Su Yi's back wasn't an ordinary object. It weighed over a few thousand pounds. Putting aside this heavy burden, Su Yi's combat strength was at the peak. He He had been thwarted twice in a row, and he couldn't even touch the kid's clothes, especially when he saw that the former had thrown away the sword and blade on his back. To Hu Ming, it was obvious that the former didn't put him in his eyes and didn't intend to use his weapon. Looking at Su Yi, Hu Ming's expression turned slightly cold. Let me see what kind of extraordinary person has emerged from the spirit ancient village. As Hu Ming's voice faded, the yuan qi under his feet surged as he pounced towards Su Yi at lightning speed. Although he was surprised by Su Yi's strength, Hu Ming wasn't too worried. After all, he was well aware of his own strength. Boom! Hu Ming threw out a punch at an extremely fast speed. His fist rapidly enlarged in Su Yi's eyes. Su Yi raised his eyebrows, and the faint smile on his face disappeared. Yuan Qi surged in his body, and from the inside to the outside, a crimson-red Yuan Qi condensed into a Yuan Qi shield. Yuan Qi leaked out and condensed into an Yuan Qi barrier, creating an additional layer of defense. At the same time, Su Yi didn't stop as he shook his arm and clenched his fist. Boom! In that instant, Su Yi's 8th level Yuan Profound Realm aura wasn't held back at all. The Yuan Qi within the Yuan Qi ocean gathered on his fist, causing it to shine brightly. He then threw out a punch to collide with Hu Ming's fist. This was the Overlord Fist. Su Yi didn't test the waters as he used his full strength. Su Yi was only at the 8th level of the Origin Profound Realm. Facing an opponent who might already be at the 1st level of the Demon Profound Realm, Su Yi did not want to put himself in danger. He wanted to end the battle quickly and go all out. When Su Yi chose to advance, instead of retreating and clash head-on with him, a hint of surprise flashed across Hu Ming's eyes before he sneered. With Hu Ming's current cultivation, this brat seemed to be at the 8th level of the Yuan Profound Realm. Even if he was at the peak of the 9th level of the Yuan Profound Realm, he would definitely not be a match for Hu Ming. Rumble. The two fists collided, and in the next instant, Su Yi's fist shone brightly, as if it was expanding. Clear sounds of wind and thunder resounded, like the rumbling of thunder. At the same time, as if an overlord had awakened and an emperor had descended, a huge pressure spread out from Su Yi's body. A terrifying Yuan Qi power erupted from his fist like an erupting volcano. Buzz! The berserk energy suddenly exploded when Su Yi's fist collided. The huge wind formed a shockwave that shot out like a storm. Stomp! Stomp! Su Yi's body staggered. His figure continuously retreated a few steps before he stabilized his momentum. Qi! Qi! At this moment, Hu Ming's body staggered back continuously. His feet rubbed against the ground for several meters before he stabilized himself. The sneer in his eyes was instantly replaced by astonishment. Not far away, seeing Hu Ming retreat, the remaining young men and women of the tribe of tiger hunters' faces turned into astonishment. Shangguan Chenfeng, Shangguan Shiwei, and the rest's faces also secretly revealed a grave expression. When they saw the scene before them, they were also rather astonished. Obviously, from the situation of the two's exchange earlier, it seemed that Hu Ming did not gain any advantage. Instead, he fell into a slight disadvantage. Su Yi swung his palm. His fist was a little numb. He looked at Hu Ming, who had the appearance of a young master, but his physical body seemed to be very strong. However, in terms of combat strength, Su Yi was also a little surprised. Could it be that this Hu Ming had not stepped into the Origin Spirit Realm? Perhaps the Origin Spirit Realm was merely SOSO. It did not seem to be that strong. 8th level of the Origin Profound Realm. With such strength, no wonder Hu Qi was defeated. The astonishment in Hu Ming's eyes slowly faded away. He secretly hid it. Sensing the unreserved aura on Su Yi's body at this moment, his expression sank. 8th level of the Origin Profound Realm actually made him almost suffer a hidden loss earlier. No wonder this brat was so arrogant. He really had some capital to be arrogant. Coming out of the Heavenly Demon Cave, is that all you have? A slight smile surfaced on Su Yi's face once again. However, he was not careless in his heart. He could sense that this Hu Ming did not seem to have truly used his full strength earlier and was holding back. As you wish. When such words fell, Hu Ming's heart calmed down instead. There was no carelessness or contempt in his eyes. No carelessness or contempt. It was not because Hu Ming really felt that he could not deal with the Su Yi in front of him. It was because Hu Ming was very clear that when he was this age, he was far from having such cultivation and combat strength. And at this moment, this brat came to the heavenly demon cave. Once he walked out half a year later, it was extremely likely that he would already be able to reach his current level. What reason did he have to be careless and contempt? Boom! The yuan qi within Hu Ming's body surged. A new surge of powerful aura swept out from his body. Green water attribute yuan qi emitted a dazzling and resplendent glow. It was as if the entire sky was filled with mist. The air also became moist, as if a rainstorm would fall at any moment. First level of the origin spirit realm. It's really the first level of the origin spirit realm. When Hu Ming no longer concealed his aura, Shangwan Chunfeng and Shangwan Shiwei's eyes trembled. Just as they had expected, Hu Ming's cultivation had really reached the first level of the origin spirit realm. Hu Ming's main attribute is the water attribute. Brother Yi Su is going to be at a disadvantage. The aura on Su Yi's body had always been blazing hot. The Yuan Qi radiance was also scarlet red. Shangwan Rock and the rest had always thought that Su Yi's main attribute was the fire attribute. Now that he was facing Hu Ming, not only was his cultivation suppressed, his attribute would also be affected. Everyone knew that the 5 attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth all countered each other. Only the wind and lightning attributes were an exception. First level of the origin spirit realm. Sensing the aura on Hu Ming's body, Su Yi's expression didn't change much. First of all, Su Yi had already sensed that Hu Ming had most likely reached the first level of the origin spirit realm. Furthermore, Su Yi had come into contact with quite a few cultivators at the first level of the origin spirit realm. Right now, the golden python and the others in the mysterious space in his mind had already reached the demon spirit realm a long time ago. Furthermore, the speed of their progress had always been very fast. During this period of time, Su Yi had been in the spirit ancient village. Although he had a special feeling towards the village, he didn't want to reveal the secret of the origin spirit ancient village. As for the mysterious space in his mind, Su Yi didn't intend to reveal it. Therefore, Su Yi didn't call out the mysterious space to check on the golden python and the others. He also didn't know if the mysterious space had expanded after his recent breakthroughs. Let's end this. To be able to force me to use the strength of the origin spirit realm for the first time, even if you lose, it's still an honor. Chapter 269. Crimson Flame Palm. Su Yi raised his eyebrows and struck out with his palm. Instantly, wave after wave of blazing aura collided with Hu Ming's attack. Seeing that Su Yi was still advancing instead of retreating, everyone present was secretly in an uproar. An 8th level Yuan profound realm martial artist clearly knew that he was facing an Yuan spirit realm martial artist. With such a large gap between them, he actually dared to do so. Not many people would have such guts. Su Yi faced Hu Ming's attack head-on without fear. Although he knew that Hu Ming was at the first level of Yuan spirit realm, Su Yi had a certain understanding of Hu Ming's battle strength from the previous exchange. Thus, he was somewhat confident in himself. What's more, Hu Ming was definitely a decent opponent. So what if his cultivation level was high? With the origin supreme art, true strength was his true strength. Bang bang. When the two collided, the crimson flame palm exploded and a wave of fire swept out. Su Yi was forced to retreat in a straight line. Under Hu Ming's all-out attack, he had suffered a slight loss in a direct confrontation. Hu Ming was even more shocked. He thought that he would be able to finish off the brat in one move. However, he never expected that things would not go as he wished. The brat was not even injured. The first level of Yuan spirit realm is indeed very strong. Su Yi was shocked. There was indeed a huge gap between the first level of Yuan spirit realm and the Yuan profound realm. He felt that this UMO was much stronger than the fierce scarlet wild bear he faced before. Hu Ming stretched out his 5 fingers and turned them into a palm. Green yuan qi surged on his palm and condensed into a green layer at the center of his palm. It was sparkling and translucent, and its aura was continuous and fierce. External yuan qi condensation. Shangguan Qinfeng, Shangguan Shiwei, and the rest were shocked. External yuan qi condensation was the mark of an yuan profound realm martial artist. External yuan qi condensation was the mark of an yuan spirit realm martial artist. External yuan qi condensation and external yuan qi condensation were two completely different concepts. Only an yuan spirit realm martial artist could achieve the step of external yuan qi condensation. You surprise me more and more. But no matter what, you will definitely lose today. The palm was covered in green light. It was crystal clear, and it faintly emitted an ancient aura. The power emitted from it caused Hu Ming to reveal a confident smile. This was the first time he had made a move after breaking through to the essence spirit stage. Without any hesitation, his palm trembled as he stepped forward, swiftly sending a palm strike towards Su Yi. Come on! Under the attentive gazes of the crowd, Su Yi still did not retreat. A sound similar to wind and thunder was faintly emitted from his body. A scarlet-red color surged out from his eyes like a burning flame. Qila. His figure was like an afterimage, real and fake, changing constantly. Su Yi and Hu Ming fought head-on. One was at the 8th level of the Yuan Profound stage, while the other was at the 1st level of the Yuan Spirit stage. The two instantly clashed intensely as fiery sparks erupted. As their figures crossed each other, muffled sounds of energy rang out from time to time. The remaining members of the tribe of tiger hunters were dumbfounded. They originally thought that they would be able to properly deal with the people from the spiritual ancient village and show off their strength. How could they have imagined that such a powerful and abnormal brat would appear? They originally thought that Hu Ming would be able to deal with him. However, they never imagined that the brat who looked so young would actually be able to fight with Hu Ming to such an extent. An 8th level of the Yuan Profound stage going against a 1st level demon spirit stage. How powerful was that brat? The two constantly clashed, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Their figures were as fast as lightning, so fast that no one could clearly see them. They could only vaguely see that Su Yi seemed to be at a disadvantage. Water Spirit Ancient Ripple Fist. With a loud roar, Hu Ming's face turned darker and darker. In his imagination, the brat before him would definitely not be able to contend against him. However, after exchanging blows, he realized that no matter how he attacked, the former was actually able to face him head-on with a cultivation at the 8th level of the Yuan Profound stage. Although he seemed to have gained quite a bit of an advantage, it was definitely not much of an advantage. Bang! A low muffled sound rang out as Su Yi and Hu Ming collided. At the point of contact, a low yuan qi energy explosion rang out. The surrounding ground trembled as rocks were shattered into dust. Tiny cracks spread out on the ground like a spiderweb. Stomp, stomp. On the verge of breaking out, Su Yi brushed against the ground as he retreated. His face was much paler, and his hair was a little messy. Hu Ming retreated. Although he was also in a sorry state, he was much better off than Su Yi. The entire scene was speechless as everyone's face was filled with shock. No one had imagined that Su Yi would actually be able to fight Hu Ming to such an extent. Hu Ming stopped in his tracks. His figure was tall and straight, and his aura was extraordinary. Both of his eyes were shining with a clear green light. Su Yi stabilized his retreat. His figure was thin, and although he was not old, his figure was already tall and slender. His skin was suffused with radiance, giving off a warm, jade-like luster. Crimson light gushed out from his eyes, bright and full of expression. For no reason, the domineering and imposing aura from his body made one's heart tremble as it gave off a unique aura. Hu Ming's expression changed slightly, but his overall aura was calm and appeared to have stabilized. Su Yi's expression also calmed down as he stood there quietly, giving off an aura for no reason. However, Everyone present knew that the two of them had not truly calmed down. Instead, they were brewing, waiting to erupt. The outcome of the battle between these two fellows would likely be decided soon. Let's truly end this. A loud shout rang out as Hu Ming attacked once again. His aura erupted as he pounced towards Su Yi. His long sleeves danced as the green light on his body shone resplendently, seemingly bringing about a mist that filled the sky. The mist grew thicker and thicker, finally forming into a storm. Sand and rocks flew as torrential rain poured down, enveloping the surroundings as howling gales howled. Is this the strength of the Origin spirit realm? Such an imposing aura made Shangwan Chenfeng, Shangwan Shuwei, and the rest tremble uncontrollably. Su Yi made his move at the same time. His eyes suddenly shone with a dazzling light like lightning. His robes fluttered, and his black hair fluttered behind him. His aura seemed to carry the wrath of thunder. The attribute of the Yuan Qi on his body instantly changed. The Yuan Qi immediately flowed through a specific meridian before finally gathering at his right leg. 8 Desolate's fury, suppressing mountains and rivers with a single foot. Su Yi's right leg suddenly stepped out. A Yuan Qi whirlpool swept out like a storm beneath his foot as he stomped the ground. Boom! F% hashtag AACE his foot landed. The earth trembled and the air rumbled. Rumble. From where Su Yi's feet landed, the ground began to crack. Cracks as thick as an arm began to spread out like a spiderweb. Rings of black earth attribute Yuan Qi energy swept out like waves, fiercely attacking the storm brought about by Hu Ming. Bang, bang, bang. A muffled explosion rang out as the mist storm that filled the sky was blasted apart. A powerful gale of energy swept towards Su Yi. Dang, dang. Su Yi only managed to stabilize his retreat after retreating a dozen steps. However, the blood in his chest was surging. He could not help but taste something sweet in his throat as a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.